Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto and Kurama were banished in Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by ZND99 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Did I die? A weak voice asked as a young man laid on his back feeling exhausted. Around him was no noticeable landscape he recognized as he seemed to merely be drifting into the void, the stark white room both terrifying, yet relaxing at the same time. No, at least not yet, Brad, a voice echoed from his mind before he looked up and saw a large orange fox with red eyes and 9 flowing tails looking at him in a mix of anger and uncertainty. Fox, wait, why are you where are we? He asked, trying to get up and looking at the large beast with undivided attention. The fox itself merely looked on before answering honestly to his former host. This is your mind, idiot. Though I think I almost prefer the pipe works and sewers over this place, he said, placing on hand under his chin to think. That old bastard, Danzo his shinobi blindsided us after the battle with Pain. Remember? The boy froze, trying to remember what the fox was talking about, only growing whiter with each second. No, he started to mutter before he was going into hysterics. No, just damn it, he shouted. He remembered now, those Umbu. They ambushed him after he talked to Nagato and Konan. He subconsciously placed his hand on his neck and grit his teeth. So this is it then, I can't become Hokage. Erosen and Tsunade Bachan, everyone in the village, he failed. He felt like breaking. I'm sorry, brat, the fox said, surprising him. Just to set the record straight, I don't like you. In fact, I wanted to see this day for myself. Naruto glared at him and was about to retort before what the beast said next surprised him. But you were one of the few good ones, someone who truly believed in the old man's dream. You had potential, much more than anyone else I've had the discomfort of knowing. Thanks, Fox, he said, unsure on how to take that before they looked around. Seriously, avoid? To him it seemed cliched. Kurama frowned as he tried to find a way out. Killing the brat wouldn't do anything now, personal satisfaction at best. So now what? Naruto asked before a voice answered. That is your choice, to be honest, a woman's voice echoed out as Naruto turned to face a woman with raven hair with a single eye showing. Her style of clothing matched something Tenten or Temari might have worn, but he couldn't help but look at her with a bit of caution. Even here, he could sense her power, and Kyubi remained quiet as well. Who are you supposed to be, an angel or something? Naruto asked bluntly but cautiously as the woman merely smirked. For many years I have been referred by many titles and names. Angel is a new one, to be honest, she replied amused as she placed her weight on it. But for the record, you may call me Arcades. Arcades? Naruto asked as Kyubi looked at her curiously. Seeing the large beast, she smirked before snapping her fingers, reducing the Biju to that of Akamaru, much to Naruto's shock and the fox's anger. Before he could try anything, another voice interrupted. Kurama, please try to behave, an old man said as the fox turned around and froze, seeing a man with 3 eyes and a long beard floating around him. Old man? He cried out as Naruto blinked. Huh? Wait, old man? Kurama? What's going on here? He screamed out, confused as Kurama glared at him. The old man looked blankly at him and Arcades merely smirked. My, aren't you cute, Arcades teased before addressing the old man. Hagoromo-san, perhaps you like to inform them about your identity? Hey, respect him, you damn brat, Kurama started before he was stopped by Hagoromo laughing. It's quite alright, she means no disrespect. The Arcades and the Otsutsuki have a history, so to speak, he said as Arcades shrugged him off but smiled politely. Am I the only one who doesn't know what's going on here? Naruto muttered as Hagoromo cleared his throat. Now, Naruto Uzumaki, I am a monk, one who has been watching over the world of the shinobi for a very long time. I am the creator of Nishu, the first Toad Sage, but you may call me Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Otherwise known as the Rakuta Sennin. Huh? Wait, you're that old guy that Erosenin and Nagato talked about? He screamed as he fell on his own but in shock as Arcades shook her head. Yes, however, we are not here to discuss me or Nishu, at least not right now. To be honest, I was rather shocked when she approached me with this knowledge. What are you talking about? Kurama asked as Arcades spoke up. Simply put, I require some assistance. Naruto Uzumaki, Kurama, Kyubi, I wish to recruit you two for a mission, so to speak. This mission is a very important task that I have decided to trust upon you two. Mission? Naruto asked as Hagoromo sighed. Tell me, what do you know about the origins of chakra? He asked as Naruto looked at him confused even more. Didn't you come up with that stuff, great-grandpa? He asked as Kurama restrained himself for respect he held for the old man. I did not long ago. Chakra was a concept that was held within a great tree. This was the Shinju, a tree that contained a special fruit. My mother, Kagaya Otsutsuki, ate that fruit, obtaining the powers of chakra. Wait, Kagaya, what do you mean? Naruto asked as Kurama looked confused. Hagoromo continued. Kagaya used the power of chakra to bring an end to a war, however she soon became corrupted by her power. After she had me and my younger brother Hamura. Brother? Kurama asked as arcades took over. Hamura Otsutsuki, the founder of the Kagaya, Otsutsuki and the Hyuga clans. Hagoromo, the founder of the Senju, Uchiha and eventually the Uzumaki and the Sannin clans, she clarified as Naruto looked shocked. Wait, that means that Sasuke and Hinata and Tsunade Bachan are what? He mumbled as arcades smirked. During that time, Hagoromo and his brother fought a beast known as the Jubi, the 10-tailed beast that the tree took on as Kagaya's will. Jubi? Naruto asked before he was told more about it. The strongest creature in existence, not even I could win against that thing. It's the complete form of the Biju. Kurama spoke with narrowed eyes as Hagoromo nodded. On my quest to spread Nishu to the world, I created the 9 Biju. I gave them a name and saw them like my own children, like my sons. Indra and Azura, and you know of Kurama, and Shikaku. Kurama smirked as he thought more about it. He was swallowed by Isabu and met that container for Saiken he brought up as Naruto looked confused. He means the Sanbai Isabu and Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi Saiken, arcades clarified. Wait, he was a Jinchuriki? Naruto asked as Hagoromo continued. As my children grew, I imparted the ways of Nishu on them. Indra, my eldest, was a prodigy. Azura was rather worthless in a way. While Indra could do anything on his own, Azura always needed help from others, but that was something that I truly respected. Nishu was created to unite the world as one. Azura's power was given to him by those bonds he made. He obtained power to rival his brother, Indra, and became my successor of Nishu. Azura, Indra, I remember them, a little annoying punks, he muttered as arcades smirked. Wait, so what happened then? Naruto asked as Hagoromo sighed. Indra could not accept that I had chose Azura over him, thus he started a feud with his own brother. As time went on, their bodies decayed, their chakra would manifest itself into another host, one to continue the battle again and again. Huh! You have heard of Madara and Hashirama. They were incarnations of Azura and Indra, and you, Naruto, are Azura's current incarnation. No one said anything as Naruto froze. He was an incarnation of Azura. That explains a lot, Kurama mocked as arcades shook her head amused. Going on that little bit of history, you are important to the world of chakra. Thus this little trip of death was something that was not supposed to occur. But with this situation, I am not one to overlook opportunity. What do you mean, Arcades-chan? Naruto asked as arcades blushed slightly before regaining her composure. As I said, there is something I need assistance in, and I wish for you two to help me. That being that my world, the world of Aura, is facing a crisis one I thought would never come to be. The Otsutsuki clan, they seek my world Shinju. Wait, hold on. Your world Shinju? Kurama asked, almost demanding as arcades sighed. The Otsutsuki had a habit of stealing Shinju of other worlds, those that came here seeking that were disposed of, she said simply as Naruto looked confused. What do you mean by that? He asked nervously as she merely smirked. Don't worry about it, they were brats that had their techniques backfire on them, she said with a smile as she snapped her fingers as the 4 of them were transported to a stadium, seeing a purple creature and a similar colored ghost creature. A Nidorino and a Jengar. In my dimension, we have no chakra. Instead, we utilize a source known as aura. These creatures you see before you are what you would call Pokemon. Creatures who have full access to aura, which most humans do not. Okay, wait, Pokemon? Aura? He asked as she nodded. Aura would be a parallel to your chakra. While chakra is the mixture of the body and mind, aura is a manifestation of one's very soul. Humans train rigorously to harness their aura, while Pokemon naturally are blessed with it. Okay, so they understood that part. It was like shinobi working hard to achieve their own abilities, people like Hinata and Shikamaru who it could come really easy for, while others likely had to struggle for it with blood, strength, and tears. Pokemon, on the other hand, are similar to both summoning creatures and Biju. Humans work alongside them, sometimes for pets, sometimes for guardians, and other times for battles. Battles? The best way to describe it would be like your Chunin exams, where Pokemon would spar against one another to gain strength. The trainers also grow alongside them, yet there are those who would abuse them for nothing more than selfish glory and riches. Turning to Naruto, she let out a smile. This is one of the reasons I decided on you. Unlike most others, you hold a pure heart. Despite your rashness and recklessness, You would truly make a remarkable trainer. So that's what I'm here for, to be a trainer? He asked while Arcades nodded in confirmation. Yes, but only in part of your true mission. You see, something even worse than the Otsutsuki has turned up lately, something which is proving to destroy the multiple worlds under my protection. What do you mean? Kurama asked as Arcades smiled sadly. Someone is destroying my worlds, taking the aura cores similar of the chakra fruit that your world holds. I need you to confront this, or else the entire multiverse of my dimension will collapse. Huh, it's that bad? The blonde yelled as she returned them to the white void and pointed upwards, only for the sky to darken and multiple stars to show up. Whoa, Naruto breathed in amazement as Hagoromo nodded in agreement as Arcades smiled softly. Yes, it is rather breathtaking. Each star you see represents an alternate universe. A person could be born either male or female, their first Pokemon, the Pokemon they catch, even the ways they interact with others all vary on the world. There are worlds where there are no humans, worlds where certain Pokemon may exist where others of their kind do not. Every world is both unique and different. And that is what I'd like to save. Turning away from Naruto, she finished her story. And this threat is something that is currently destroying these worlds. They are getting erased one by one like a game file being corrupted by a glitch. This is why I need to fight fire with fire. I need to locate this glitch, taking out these worlds with one of my own. You mean I'm a glitch? You are both anomalies, ones that should not by all means exist in these worlds, yet you can and you shall. I need you to fight this threat for me for my worlds and do so what I cannot, and when you do and are victorious I shall return you both to your home, return you to your life and leave you in peace. Naruto stared at her in thought, so he was offered a chance to return to Konoha after saving another world as Kurama frowned. And if we don't agree? He asked as Arcades smiled faltered. I will return you back to your afterlife, you will be brought back into the realm of death, she said bluntly as Naruto frowned. Well, I'm in, he said without a problem as Hagoromo smirked. Just like Azura, never hesitating even once. Arcades looked at him in shock as Kurama stared at him dumbly. Are you serious? Kurama asked as he looked at Arcades and frowned. I really don't have a choice, do I? He asked as Arcades let out a smile. If one goes, both go, she said as Kurama shook his head. Fine, but only because the old man is here and I don't want the idiot to die, he said as Naruto smirked. That's nice of you, Kurama, Naruto said, referring the fox by his name as Kurama glared. Before he could retort, Hagoromo smiled. Thank you, Kurama, I hope you both luck in your adventure. The road will be long, but I ask you this. Humans have deeply hurt you, but do not let such hatred judge your views on the humans or Pokemon of that world. Fine. But only if they don't fuck with me first. Naruto laughed as he looked at Arcades and smiled. Well, I guess that's that. If Great-Grandpa trusts you enough and this is the only way back, then we'll both help. And that's a promise, the blonde said as he was caught into a thankful embrace by the woman. You have my thanks, Naruto Uzumaki Kurama. I will be in hoping for your success, but there is something I need to point out. Huh? Sending you there will have some side effects. You won't fully remember me. You won't remember why you're there until later, and when you do, then your mission will officially begin. Anything else? Kurama asked as she smirked. Also, your chakra will be converted into aura. And that will be a little different than chakra, but you should be alright, she said as Naruto looked worried. Anything else? Naruto asked as she shook her head. No, that's it, she said with a smile before she snapped her fingers. Once you wake up, head to a town called Pallet and look for a man named Professor Oak. He will get you started on your journey as a trainer. Got it, I'll remember. Wait, what if I forget, and what do you mean once I wake up? He asked but was ignored. Plus, this will only hurt for a moment, so try to keep that egg safe until it hatches, okay? She said as his eyes widened in fear. Egg? Wake up? Hurt for a moment, what the hell did she mean by? Naruto screamed in pain, as his body felt like it was being torn apart piece by piece before from his stomach came a bulge. And from that bulge formed what looked like to be an egg the size of Akamaru several years ago. Naruto also changed as his body started to shrink, reverting back to that of a 12-year-old child. Kurama just stared before he was sealed back into Naruto. Arcade smiled as she picked up Naruto with telekinesis, and the egg with her hands. She placed the latter in a backpack for the blonde child. That egg contains your partner, created from your strong will and heart. I know you two will do great things together, so I wish you both the best of luck. It didn't take long after for the boy to vanish from her domain. It took even less time for her to address Hagoromo, who looked at her with a stern expression. They will be alright? He asked as she nodded. They will face things as strong as Kaguya. They will help guide my chosen one on his destiny, and once this void has been dealt with, I will return them back to their own world, she said as she felt the man disappear back to his world. She smiled before walking to what looked like a chessboard. Instead of pawns or knights or anything else, she had 4 pieces, each one with a different kanji. She hoped that they would be enough. Naruto Uzumaki moaned as he walked through the gates leading into Pallet Town. Tired and sore, he carried a large egg in his arms. He didn't know how he got here, and neither did Kurama. The last thing either of them remembered was reconciling, if you could even call it that, and Naruto being dead. Thus it made perfect sense that Naruto woke up completely healed, in the middle of an open field, turned into a 12-year-old with a giant egg and, thankfully, a map and spare set of clothes in his new backpack. All left by someone named Arcades. Yup, perfect sense indeed. How the hell did we even get here, Brad? I swear that if this is somehow your fault. His threat was ignored as the blonde child just sighed at his luck. Seriously though, what the heck am I doing here? Do you think we have a way back? He muttered to himself as Kurama just went back to sleep, clearly annoyed at this situation. And he wouldn't blame the fox either. He just wanted to know what was going to happen. Oh, a woman's voice echoed before Naruto felt him hit something and land on the ground, subconsciously cradling the egg to prevent damage before looking back up to see who he hit. A young woman with brown hair got up and looked at him in concern as the blonde got up himself, making sure the egg was okay. Are you okay? She asked as Naruto looked at her and nodded. Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention, he said as she noticed the egg and quickly snatched it with stars in her eyes. Wow, is this a Pokemon egg? Do you by chance want to be a trainer? She asked as she gave the blue egg back, and Naruto smiled awkwardly. I guess, to be honest, I just kind of found this and decided to see Professor Oak, he admitted as the woman smiled and pointed behind him. Grandpa's lab is right over there. If you want, I can show you there if you want, she said as Naruto nodded. Great, follow me, she said, leading him to the Pokemon lab as he started to smile. Okay, so far so good. Now he can meet her grandpa and he can know what to do with it. Wait. Grandpa? He shouted out, surprised as Daisy looked at him confused. So, this is it. Any questions? Daisy asked as the blonde looked at the building in amazement. To say he was kind of impressed would be kind of an understatement, as he saw hundreds of Pokemon roaming the back as the shinobi and the granddaughter of the Pokemon professor. Before they could begin to search, however. Oh Daisy, nice to see you, an old man's voice echoed out as the two turned around and saw an old man in a white lab coat with short gray hair, and holding a large bag of what seemed to be Pokemon food. Hi Grandpa, right. This is Naruto. He was looking for you, she said, catching the older man's attention before she stepped aside for Naruto to show him the egg. Hey, Professor, he asked, slightly nervous as the professor looked at the boy in curiosity. Hello there, is that a Pokemon egg you happen to be holding? He asked as Naruto nodded with a smirk. Yeah, I was wondering if you could tell me more about it, plus help me find my way back home, he said as both of the Oaks looked confused. Find his way back home? What did that mean? They would ask about that later. Well, if you want me to take a look at it I can, but until it hatches I'm afraid there isn't nothing I can do, the old man said as Naruto frowned and held his look down in slight depression. That long walk for nothing. In the meantime, if you want to get your trainer's license you can follow me, he said as Naruto looked at him confused. License? He asked as Daisy smiled. Of course. Most official Pokemon trainers need to typically have some kind of license before they can care for Pokemon, she said as Naruto felt nervous. So what do I need to do to get one? He asked nervously. Oh, nothing too much. Just some questions, a test, and some paperwork. You should be fine, she supported while Naruto froze. He had to do a test? There was a test? Hey, what kind of test is it? Like about Pokemon and stuff? He asked nervously as Daisy nodded. Yeah, don't worry, it's just basic stuff like what Pokemon you know and type advantages and the really basic stuff, she supported him. If you want I can get it now. Study, the young shinobi blurted out, causing them to look at him in confusion. Ah yeah, probably should study first, he clarified as Daisy nodded and Professor Oak rubbed his chin. Well, we have some books in the lab, and the test results wouldn't need to be done until next week to get your license the soonest. I suppose you could study for the day and take it tomorrow. Really? Naruto asked, suddenly hope spread in his eyes as he realized he could just Kage Bunshin and learn what he needed in an instant. Sure, I'll help you out, Daisy said as Naruto felt like he was slapped in the face and then kissed by a woman to make it feel better. Now while he couldn't use Kage Bunshin without causing a panic, he had a really cute tutor to help him. Jiraiya would have laughed his ass off at his bad luck, or cursed him for himself not having the blonde's good luck. Following the woman into the lab, Naruto carried his egg and hoped he could learn enough for his license while Professor Oak just stared at the blonde with a small smile. Well, I guess he was right after all, he said as he picked up the bag of Pokemon food and continued to do his work. Kid, calm down, Kurama said as Naruto looked at his final results with a smile. I know, but I'm just so happy, he said with tears in his eyes. He passed. With all his hard work, he finally got his license. And I'm so very happy you got your little card. Now shut up and get going already, the fox growled, getting irritated at the blonde's happiness over an insignificant item like a license. Hey, this was the first test I actually passed, okay, let me have this, Naruto cried while Kurama sighed. That was in some way true that this was the first actual test the blonde passed that wasn't either rigged for him to pass, or just dumb luck. Congratulations for passing a test for 10-year-olds, the fox's sarcastic reply echoed within his mind as Naruto twitched. This was why he couldn't have nice things. But he passed. All by himself he got a B and actually passed. So, now all I need to do is fill out some boring paperwork and we're good to go, the blonde said as Kurama smiled before Professor Oak came in with a folder and a smile. So, all I need you to do is fill this out and you'll be good to go, he said as Naruto nodded before writing down his basic information. It was pretty easy. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Age 10. Date of birth: 10/10. Height. Weight. Blood type: unknown. Hometown: Konoha. Family. That one actually made the blonde stop for a moment. Just who did he have left now that Ero-sennin was gone? It wasn't until after Jiraiya had died that he learned that the man was his godfather. Kurama, on the other hand, just sighed, sending his chakra to Naruto's hand, and soon enough, Naruto was forced to write down his family. Family: Minato Namake's father, Kushina Uzumaki; mother, Jiraiya, godfather. Seeing that made Naruto smile, tears threatening to fall from his face as Kurama said nothing. Thanks, Kurama, the blonde said as the fox snorted. Don't. I did it so you wouldn't take forever, he retorted as Naruto smiled. He never got to meet his parents at all, and Jiraiya died in the battle against Nagato. He thought he was alone. But he wasn't. Taking the pen, he wrote down one last name on the paper, catching the tailed beast's interest. Family: Minato Namake's father, Kushina Uzumaki; mother, Jiraiya, godfather. Kurama Kyubi, unknown. Kurama said nothing, but on his face was a small smile. How ironic it is that he, the murderer of the boy's own parents, was somehow listed as some kind of legal guardian. Meanwhile, two certain people watched through a pair of binoculars and smirked deviously. It seems that the famous Professor Oak is rather careless, a woman said as she picked up her binoculars while her partner smiled. It would seem so, Cassidy, he said as the two would wait until nightfall to strike. That way they could escape in a flash and under the cover of night. That night, Naruto smiled as he was able to stay at the lab while Daisy had left to go home with her brother. Holding his egg, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of Pokemon would hatch from it. In front of him was a poster, featuring two Pokemon fighting with a Pokeball, and was in the middle. Around the two fighters were what looked like different badges of different sizes and colors, making the shinobi smirk. This Pokemon League thing seems kind of interesting, huh? He asked himself while Kurama snorted. I guess, he said as the thought of two animals fighting was boring. Now if he could step into the ring. Lying on the bed with the egg next to him, he held up his hand and tried gathering his chakra. However, his hand glowed in a blue light instead, something other than the chakra he knew. He couldn't even access the fox's chakra, even when they tried, and what was weird was when he tried to do a Rasengan form, but it was too big, too wild to contain, and about twice as dangerous than when he first tried learning it. He tried making some clones, but what would normally be 10 or 20 turned into around 3, and even then he felt a little winded. Something was going on. His ninjutsu was weaker, his chakra was nearly uncontrollable, he couldn't summon the toads, and the worst thing about it was that despite it all, it felt completely natural for him. Kurama was thinking similar things. His chakra, his entire being was altered. He didn't know how or why. The only one who did something like this was the old man when he created the tailed beast from the Jubi. He didn't want to tell Naruto that, he himself didn't even want to admit it. But something was off from before. He didn't like it one bit. Looking back at the egg, Naruto smiled softly as he decided to go to bed. He'd think about it in the morning what to do. Crash. Naruto instantly woke up and grabbed his egg before running out of his room and following the source. To his surprise, he was Professor Oak already there as two people dressed in what seemed to be black uniforms appeared. Who are you? What are you doing here? Professor Oak demanded as he stared at the two similarly dressed teenagers. Expecting an answer, Naruto and Kurama witnessed one of the most interesting things they have ever seen. Prepare for trouble, the woman started, to immediately be followed by her friend. And make it double, he said while the woman continued on from there. To infect the world with devastation. To blight all people in every nation. What the heck are they doing? Naruto asked himself as they seemed in some sort of Jiraiya-esque self-tribute to themselves. Seriously, this was really weird yet horrible familiar. Kid, for all the times I mocked you and that perverted sage for those stupid introductions, I think this is the most pitiable thing I've ever seen, Kurama said as he just stared at the two humans, and they still kept going. Yeah, it really is kind of. Wait, you mocked us. When was this? He mentally demanded as the duo finished their little introduction. Now that introductions are out of the way, let's get straight into business, the woman said as she pulled out some kind of capsule. You can start with handing over all your Pokemon, the other man said as he pulled out a capsule as well. When Professor Oak said nothing, he prepared to fight, reaching into his pocket before Naruto made a Kagebunshin to hold onto the egg. He didn't have a Pokemon. He didn't have the best control of his abilities, but that didn't mean he wasn't going to at least try. And Naruto, what are you doing here? Oak asked as the blonde child and soon-to-be trainer smirked. I don't want them stealing Pokemon, and I'm not going to leave you alone, old man, he said as Professor Oak nodded before throwing him the capsule he had in his coat jacket. Huh, who's this brat? The woman asked while the man shrugged. Probably the old man's grandson. It doesn't matter, you can't win against us, he boasted as Naruto pushed the button on the capsule and in a bright light came a strange creature he'd never thought he'd see. The Pokemon in question was some kind of large dog that had orange and black fur with a whitish-yellow mane of hair. Its presence felt legendary as Naruto looked at the professor in shock. Don't be so surprised, I was a serious trainer myself in the day, he said as Naruto nodded and smirked. Arcanine, this is Naruto. I want you to show him firsthand what battling is all about, the professor said as the large dog howled in what could be assumed as agreement. Right so. If you think we're intimidated by that oversized mutt, then you've got another thing coming, the woman yelled before out of her pokeball came a large brown rat with abnormally long teeth. That goes for me too, you punk, the man said as he threw out his own capsule and a small blue bat appeared. Child's play, Professor Oak said as he smirked at his old partner with a hidden fire in his eyes. Alright Arcanine, use Ember. The large beast snarled before releasing a small spray of flames that forced both Pokemon back before the large dog took a deep breath, making Naruto confused before Oak said two words. Use Roar. And before they knew it, both Team Rocket and their Pokemon were forced out of the house as the pressure from the howling pushed them away, sending them flying and extinguishing the flames that the fire Pokemon made previously. No, this can't be right? The woman screamed as the male agreed. But it looks like Team Rocket, he said before together they both screamed. Is blasting off again, they said before they disappeared from view and into the horizon. Once they were launched out by the large roar, Naruto and Professor Oak smiled before Naruto returned the Pokeball back to the older man. Yikes, I didn't think Arcanine was so strong, he said as the large beast blew them away with a single roar as the Pokemon professor laughed. Yes, Arcanine was one of my first Pokemon, and he helped me through some tough times, he said as Naruto smiled. The Arcanine howled before being recalled into its Pokeball, and Oak was about to call the police before, to his shock, a second Naruto came down in a hurry panic. Hey boss, the clone said, holding the egg that started to twitch in his hands as the real Naruto immediately focused on the egg. Seeing it crack, the egg seemed to glow before a small light formed from within, slowly taking on the form of what looked like some kind of masked dog. It was blue and had black hind legs while the back of its paws had small bulges forming while its red eyes slowly went to gaze at the blonde trainer in confusion, curiosity, and slight hesitation. Ryolu, it muttered as Naruto stared before Naruto smirked and held it in his arms like some kind of new teddy bear before smirking. Sweet, hey professor, what kind of Pokemon is this, professor? He asked as the professor was silent, switching his gaze between both blondes in the room. Confused, Naruto followed the professor's gaze to his clone, before back to himself, and the clone again, who seemed to have figured it out already. Disappearing in a plume of smoke, the real Naruto was left alone before the memories of the double came to him, and he realized his mistake. The old man saw his shadow clone and humans couldn't do that, could they? Shit. While Kurama laughed inside of the blonde's head, Ryolu looked back at the blonde as he started sweating bullets on how to explain himself. Coming up with nothing, all he blurted out was, I can explain. Extra, test day. Today was the day of victory. Naruto waited with Daisy, saying she would hold onto the egg as she watched him take his test. Surprisingly, the type matchups weren't hard, at least after she corrected him a few times. It was weird knowing that Earth was weak against water, but in some instance it made sense, he supposed. This would hopefully be easy enough. When he was allowed to begin, he immediately froze for a moment. 50 questions, and each of them random. Flashbacks of Ibiki's exam in his youth being brought up to the forefront. But that didn't work then, and it didn't work now. He was Naruto Uzumaki, the Toad Sage and proud shinobi of Konoha. He passed Ibiki's test and didn't answer a single question. He wouldn't be afraid, he'd stand tall and... If you're done with your pep talk, kid, you do have a 10-minute time limit, remember, Kurama pointed out as Naruto froze. Crap, he forgot about that. Daisy, however, smiled and with a small laugh, watched the blonde slam his head into the desktop in misery. The exam wasn't the end of the world, but the way he was taking it was kind of funny to watch, knowing she went through the same thing. Naruto muttered something under his breath and had anime tears coming from his eyes. Today would be the day of failure. Naruto sighed as he laid on the ground with an annoyed expression on his face. Ryolo was behind him, exhausted as well. It's been 3 days since the blonde shinobi came clean about his abilities, stating he was a ninja that wound up here with no real memory other than Ryola's egg and some supplies by someone named Arcades. He would give the Pokemon professor something. He seemed less shocked about it. He took it well enough but informed him to be careful in his abilities, after explaining more about the world. To say he was amazed by the world of Pokemon was an understatement. A land filled with several different creatures, mythical Pokemon, legendary Pokemon. It was definitely different than back home. If what that old brat said was true, then we really have our work cut out for us, Kurama pointed out from the blonde's mindscape as Naruto nodded. Yeah, we do, the blonde said as he held up the Pokédex and smiled while Kurama rolled his eyes at the device. It was stupid, in all honesty. Ryolo looked at his trainer and smiled as Naruto turned and got up. Guess we should head back. Tomorrow we start our journey, he said as he left the training area, having been training in basics again. His control was out of whack. He needed to practice from the very freaking beginning, before water walking, before wind manipulation. Back at tree climbing, and he hated it already. After his sparring match with his clones as well as Ryolu, Naruto was ready to go to bed. His campsite just ahead before he froze and glared at the giant purple rat looking in his bag, causing the blonde to scream at it. The rat turned at him before heading off as Ryolu and Naruto ran up to the bag. What is that anyway? Rattata. Will chew on anything with its fangs. If you see one, then it is certain 40 more live in the area. Okay, but why was it stealing from him? They sometimes appear in open fields to steal food from stupid travelers. Naruto said nothing as Kurama held back a laugh. Ryolu snickered as the blonde twitched slightly. Stupid, huh? He'd show it. Ryolu, kick its ass, Naruto ordered as Ryolu stopped laughing at his trainer's insult and nodded, giving chase with Naruto, leaving a clone at the campsite to protect it from anything else. As Naruto ran towards Ryolu and the Rattata, he just wondered who else would fall for something like this. Ash, get to bed. It's already 11 a.m. Woman scolded her son as a 10-year-old boy moaned. But I can't sleep, knowing my adventure is tomorrow, he said as his mother sighed. Honestly, he took after his father in some regards, remembering his own journey with her. Fine, but at least watch this to prepare, she said, changing the channel, showing Professor Oak explaining about the Pokemon choices for the beginning trainers. Good evening, Palette, Professor Oak said as he went on about the Pokemon starters of Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And don't forget to go to bed when this is over, Delia Ketchum said as Ash nodded. I'm going, he answers as he imagined what Pokemon he would get. Tomorrow was the big day, and he was going to become the best. Back at the lab, Professor Oak sighed as he looked at the 3 Pokeballs in deep thought. Tomorrow another generation will start their journeys. Looking at the paperwork for the upcoming trainers, he let his eyes stare on one page specifically. Naruto Uzumaki, he muttered as he sighed. Reaching for the phone, he called a number and waited for it to answer. He was pleased when he got a hold of a friend he met around a month ago. Yeah, huh, oh Sam, what are you calling me for this late? He asked as Samuel Oak smiled. I'm sorry I haven't called earlier, but with all the work for tomorrow's event, I was busy. Yeah, I know, so what's up? Anything on this Arcades person? He asked as Sam smiled. Actually, yes, recently a new trainer is starting his adventure tomorrow, and when he does I was hoping you could meet up him, he said as the other man looked interested. Oh? Is he a prodigy or some kind of slacker? The old man asked as he took a sip of tea before he was shown a picture of Naruto, completely spitting out his tea completely. And Naruto? He screamed out as Sam nodded. From what you told me about both you and your contact, then that means something is going on. Why, yeah, is he in Pallet? What's his Pokemon? How is he doing? The other voice called off, as Samuel smiled. Tomorrow he's beginning his adventure with a Riolu. He will be heading out tomorrow as with the other new trainers, and from what I can tell, he doesn't remember much like you. Any progress? Some I remember a description, but other than that I still can't remember why I was sent here or just who this arcade's woman is. Well, I'll try to keep looking into it then. Have a good night, Sam said as the shinobi sighed and nodded. Once the call ended, he couldn't help but wonder what was going to happen. First those two and now Naruto. I hope you can forgive me for this, but I made a promise, but I know you'll see each other again. And with that, he decided to head to bed. The next morning came by quickly as a dodrio sounded off while the people began their morning rituals. Naruto moaned, having to meet the professor about something like a favor. Seeing the building surrounded by different people, the blonde looked confused before he saw a screaming kid running at them through the crowd. Sorry, he apologized as Naruto looked on and saw the two begin to talk. Wait, Gary? Ash, well, I guess that means you snooze you lose because you're way behind. I just got my first Pokemon from Gramps, he said as Naruto looked a little irked by the newcomer Gary. Wait, Gramps? Oh, so he was Daisy's kid brother she mentioned. Seems interesting. You have a Pokemon, can I see it? Ash asked as Gary smirked. Sorry, Ash, but you snooze you lose, he said before addressing the people. Attention, town of Pallet. I, Gary Oak, promise to become the best Pokemon trainer in the world, he declared as he suddenly jumped into a car, one that took off with several girls with him. While the people left, Naruto and Riolu just stood there, seeing Ash stare at where his rival was last before letting out a frustrated moan before Naruto smirked. Professor Oak, however, walked up to them and looked confused. I was wondering when you guys would show up, he said as Ash smirked and ran up to him. Professor Oak, I'm ready to receive my first Pokemon now, he said while hoping he could still get one, albeit a little embarrassed. You look more ready for bed than to begin your journey, Oak pointed out, and the smell didn't help either, but Naruto smirked at the younger kid's misfortune. I got messed up a little and I know I'm a little late, but I'm ready, he said as Oak nodded, Naruto and Riolu following them in. Seeing the kid approach 3 Pokeballs on a table, he smiled. It was a tough choice, but I finally decided on Squirtle, he said as the Pokeball opened, revealing nothing inside as Oak looked nervous. Unfortunately, someone else already picked that one, he informed as Naruto looked on. Well, I guess I'll have to go with Bulbasaur, huh? He asked as the grass Pokemon was also gone. That one was also picked by someone on time, Professor Oak said as Ash looked hopefully at Charmander's Pokeball. Then wait, hold on, Charmander is? He asked as once again, Charmander was empty. Naruto looked at the professor who sighed. The early bird gets the worm, or I guess the Pokemon, but we do have one more, he started as Ash immediately accepted. I'll take it, Ash said as Sam nodded and pulled out a Pokeball before releasing the contents inside. Ash stared astounded, as did Naruto and Riolu, as a yellow mouse appeared with a smile. Pikachu. Wow, a Pikachu, Ash cried before picking it up and hugging it. Naruto was about to congratulate his fellow trainer before sensing something bad about to happen. He was proven right as the child was electrocuted by the small mouse. Naruto was actually amazed he lived. It's electric mouse Pokemon. While it appears calm and docile, it can sometimes have an electric personality, he said as Ash twitched a bit. I see what you mean, Professor, he said as said professor handed him 5 Pokeballs and a Pokédex of his own. Here, these are for you, he said, only to be electrocuted again with Ash when the kid reached for the objects in his hands. Thank you? You're welcome. Hey, are you guys okay? Naruto asked as he saw the twitching forms as Pikachu and Riolu looked at one another. So, that was Ash? Naruto asked as he talked with Professor Oak about the favor. Yes, while a bit behind compared to some others, he truly has potential to be a great trainer, just like his father, he said as Naruto looked interested. Father? He asked as Sam nodded. His father was a young trainer from Pallet as well, but as time went on he decided to explore the world. He stops by every now and then, he said as Naruto smirked. And Ash wants to be like him, huh? He said with a smile. There wasn't anything wrong with that. He unknowingly wanted to follow in his father's shoes as the Hokage since he first learned about it. So what was that favor you wanted? He asked as Sam nodded before picking up a small package. I was hoping you could run this to Pewter City's museum for me, he said as Naruto looked confused. What's in it, old man? He asked as Sam smiled. Recently I discovered a strange Pokemon fossil, but I figured that they could better use it for their research, he said as Naruto nodded. It seemed easy enough. Alright, I'll give it to them on my way there, you can count on it, Professor, he said as he and Riola put the package in the backpack left to him by arcades and headed out. The start of a new adventure, he didn't know why, but something in him suddenly made him feel excited, like his first mission outside of the village, or his time he left with Jiraiya for his mission. Let's go, Riola, he said, earning a yip from the dog as they both ran to the gates with a smile. Unknown to them, a small girl watched them from afar and smirked. It would seem like her lady's pieces had began to move on the board. So now we begin, huh, Naruto and Kurama-kun, she chuckled as she disappeared in a flash of light. She had places to be, and she couldn't be seen seeing off the blonde kid yet. That would cause unneeded attention. Elsewhere, a group of 5 figures sat in a room with a large crystal ball, watching the image of Naruto heading out. TCH, so another brat has joined the battle, really? That brat arcade sure knows how to pick them, a voice said, annoyed at the situation. This is the third one she brought and she knows of our plans, a female voice said as a third voice tuned in. Perhaps, but she forgets we can bring our own forces down, but why not see where it goes, he offered as another woman's voice mocked him. Why not see where it goes, why not see where it goes, that's your excuse to everything, she mocked as the man was about to retort. Enough, the fifth one shouted as he looked at the two in interest. Clearly there is more to this brat than meets the eyes if that girl wanted to bring him here. We cannot allow these interlopers to interfere with our goals, our lord must be revived, we must keep on trying to break the seal. And for now, the fourth voice said, annoyed, respectful towards her leader but still annoyed. Why, my dear little Wisteria, we shall simply see where this goes, he mocked her, revealing his eyes, 2 glowing silver eyes with multiple rings decorating them. The Rinnegan. So this is Viridian City, Naruto said to himself, as Riola walked next to him. It took him a while to reach it but smiled when he got to civilization. So, we should probably head to the Pokemon Center first, right, he asked the blue dog before he noticed the blue dog having its attention on something else upon following its gaze. I'm going to murder that brat, an orange-haired girl complained as she stumbled across the road as she carried something that looked charred. Hey, you okay, he called out as the girl turned around and glared. Do I look okay to you? She snapped as the blonde shinobi grinned. Geez, what did I do? He complained as the girl's anger slowly faded before she eventually just sighed. She had a bad day. First, some kid with an injured Pikachu goes around and takes her bike, and now she was stuck taking the long way back and having to carry her broken and scorched bike to find that stupid brat. Fine, I'm sorry, it's just been a long day for me, she said, apologizing as she put down the remains of her bike. I'm Misty, by the way, she introduced as Naruto smirked. Naruto, and this is Riola, he introduced as the blue dog-like Pokemon raised an arm. Aren't you so cute, I never seen a Pokemon like this one before, she said as Naruto smirked. Riolu is a Pokemon from Sinnoh, he explained as Misty nodded. I see, are you from Sinnoh as well? She asked as the blonde looked nervous. He wasn't going to tell her he was from a place he didn't even know where. No, I'm from a village called Konoha, he said as he looked at Riolu. A friend gave me Riola's egg, she's from Sinnoh though, he finished. The girl seemed to buy it as she nodded before he decided to ask her something. Hey, I'm a bit new here, but do you know where the Pokemon Center is? The girl blinked before pointing to a building in the distance with a red sphere-like ceiling and nodded before she spoke up. Mind if I come with? She asked as Naruto shrugged. Sure, why not, it's not like they were going to travel together, right? Picking up the bicycle, she began to walk with him towards the center. If he was a gentleman, Naruto would have carried that bike for her. But he wasn't. Ash just finished calling his mother and got a call from Professor Oak while he waited for his Pikachu to get better. He was a failure as a trainer, he just hoped his Pokemon was okay. After pissing off a flock of Spearow, he was chased relentlessly with his Pikachu being attacked. It didn't help either that it exhausted itself on that last Thundershock attack. Pikachu, I'm sorry, he thought to himself before the doors opened to reveal. Ha, I finally found you. Misty cried out as she marched into the Pokemon Center with a glare aimed at the kid. Naruto stayed silent and watched on with a quiet Riola by his side. Wait, hold on. What happened to your bike? He asked as Misty went off on him. What happened to my bike after your little Pikachu destroyed it, and now you owe me a new one. Yeah, listen, I know I might have stole it, and I didn't mean to ruin it, but I was in a hurry and... If you would have taken better care of your Pokemon, then none of this would have happened. Misty growled before Ash finally snapped. Hey, I know I can't pay, but Pikachu's in the other room right now. He screamed as Misty, with Naruto and Riolu, all looking at him in shock. What the heck happened? Riolu was scared, wondering if he could get that hurt, while Naruto looked back at the door with the red light over it. Closing his eyes, he tried using Sage Mode before he was forced to grip his head in mild discomfort. That wasn't right. It was as if his Sage Mode was altered. He didn't just sense stuff normally like its aura, he could feel its emotions, its pain, its thoughts. And it made him sick, not because how bad it was but because he also felt heartbroken coming from the electric mouse. Looking back at Ash, he wondered what he did to make the injured patient feel sad and worried for its trainer. Riolu, the blue Pokemon, called its own name to snap him out of it as the blonde looked at it with a small smile. Don't worry, just a little tired, he lied as Riolu said nothing but accepted it. It knew he was lying, but in this situation, he couldn't blame him. How bad is it? Misty asked as Ash looked back in uncertainty. He didn't know, and that was the scary part, and as the room decided to fall into silence, Ash finally noticed the blonde trainer. Who are you? He asked as he wasn't aware anyone else was here at the moment. Naruto smirked as he decided to lighten the mood a little. Naruto, I was the kid who was with you when you got yourself and the professor electrocuted, he answered nonchalantly before crossing his arms. Glad to see you out of your pajamas, kid, he commented as Ash blinked, remembering that event faintly before recalling the event with embarrassment. Wait, you two know each other? Misty asked, confused as Naruto clarified. When my friend gave me Riolu's egg, I went to Professor Oak's lab to see what kind of Pokemon it would be. I essentially became an unofficial 5th trainer from Palette because of it. Huh? Ash cried out as Misty smiled. Well, at least he did a better job at taking care of his Pokemon. You're a trainer, huh? He asked before he noticed Riolu and looked at it in shock before reaching for his Pokédex, only to not have anything come up. Naruto smirked as Ash was unable to use the National Dex while he was given the opportunity right out the door. Riolu is a special Pokemon from another region. Our Pokédex really don't capture data on them unless we catch that Pokemon to unlock it, he answered as Ash nodded dumbly as he started to remember that mysterious bird he saw. Was that from a different region as well? Misty smiled before she saw the blonde approach Ash. Anyways, it was nice to see you again, Ash, was it? Naruto offered as he held out his hand as the younger trainer took it. Yeah, he said before the doors finally opened to reveal Pikachu on a stretcher. Seeing his Pokemon in such a condition, the trainer from Pallet Town ran over to it. This is the best we can do at the moment, but we just need to let it rest for now. No one said anything as they all waited in silence before the next thing they knew, Naruto froze and looked up with narrowed eyes as he felt something was off. 5 seconds later. Attention Viridian City. We have just had a report of a group of Pokemon thieves in the area. If you or anyone has their own Pokemon, then it's recommended that you keep your Pokemon safe and stay inside and on the lookout. Pokemon thieves, what was that supposed to mean? His answer soon came as 2 Pokeballs crashed through the roof and revealed what looked like a giant purple snake and some kind of floating purple meteorite with a smiling face and shooting off some smoke. As the smoke filled the area, Naruto grabbed Riolu and narrowed his eyes. Riolu foresight, he commanded as the blue dog did so, its eyes becoming a glowing blue before it returned to normal. What's happening? Ash cried out as he saw 2 figures appear from the smoke, revealing 2 teenagers looking at them with mirth. Prepare for trouble, one of them, a girl with long red hair, began as she had her hand on her waist as the man spoke up next. And make it double, he answered her, as he had blue hair and for whatever reason, a rose in his hand. He sounded flamboyant enough for it, the blonde guessed. Naruto, however, tried to figure out how he knew them. He never met them before, but this seemed familiar to him somehow. Jessie, the woman introduced as the man followed suit. James, he said as the woman took over again. Team Rocket blasts off at the speed of light, Jessie said as James nodded. Surrender now or prepare to fight. Once he finished, a white cat Pokemon jumped down and landed on its hind legs. Meowth, that's right, he said as Naruto looked at the last member of the trio. Did that Pokemon speak their language? How and why could it do that? Could Riolu do that? Wait, did they say Team Rocket? Team Rocket? Who are they supposed to be? Ash asked as he remembered what he heard about the lab and what the voice told them about the Pokemon thieves. Why are you here? This place only has sick and injured Pokemon. The nurse at the center, Nurse Joy, said as Jessie smiled. True, but Pokemon here do have wonders. Why not be surprised to find a few gems in the rough, she replied offhandedly as James smirked. Besides, the weaker Pokemon are always easier to catch, he said smugly as Naruto glared with the others. He didn't want to use Sage Mode after the backlash he got previously, and he didn't want to reveal his abilities in front of everyone. He'd have to play along until then. He grabbed Riolu's Pokeball and returned him to it before placing it on his belt. This was going to be, in the words of his friend, a pain in his a. Go Ekans, Jessie commanded as the snake lunged at them while the blue-haired Rocket ordered his follow-up. Coughing, tackle, he said as the floating Pokemon floated in the air before lunging at them as well. As they took off and avoided the attacks, they turned the corner and quickly hid in another room. Naruto barely made it in before Nurse Joy closed the door, and with that, they tried to come up with a plan. So any ideas? Ash asked as he kept Pikachu's stretcher in his hands as Misty looked at them. You're both Pokemon trainers, don't you have Pokemon to fight them with? She asked, looking more at the blonde than anything while Ash and Naruto both looked away. Pikachu is my only Pokemon, he said, looking at his partner as Naruto pulled out Riolu's Pokeball. All I have is Riolu. I'm going to need some kind of backup if it's 2-on-2. Wait, do you two have any Pokemon? He asked as Misty smiled. Actually yes, you're looking at the next up-and-coming world's best water Pokemon trainer, she said with a smile as Naruto nodded, in acceptance as soon as saw the lights go out. This was bad, they cut the power, and that made things hard to do. Don't worry, Joy said as she smiled. We have a backup generator. Huh, was Ash's reply as soon they saw a bunch of Pokeballs being opened up by the nurse, revealing several Pikachu, all who hopped on some kind of machine. Soon the lights flickered back on as the three kids looked up in astonishment. It's like a Pikachu battery, Misty said as Ash smiled. Joy, however, ran to her computer and typed in some coordinates before a voice spoke up. This is the Pewter City Pokemon Center preparing to accept transfer of Pokeballs, the mechanical voice said as Joy spoke up next as the machine came to life and grabbed several Pokeballs from the shelves. This is the Viridian Pokemon Center, starting transfer, she said as the caught Pokemon were soon being sent away in a flash of light. Naruto looked at it confused as Kurama, who was asleep before now, could compare it to that annoying teleportation jutsu that the fourth Hokage used. Naruto seemed to hear something before he looked behind him and saw smoke. This was bad, it was only a matter of time before. Crash. Soon the coughing cam bursting inside, knocking several Pokeballs off the shelves as Ash and the others covered their faces from the smoke. Well, what are you waiting for? Don't just hold them, start throwing them, Misty said as Ash blinked before throwing a Pokeball and revealed a small brown bird, a Pidgey. It did nothing compared to what the large snake could do, so instead, it fled. Well, that was great, Ash complained as Misty spoke up. Leave this to me, she said as she pulled out her own Pokeball, which in turn released a small and nearly worthless fish with a horn. What is that? Jessie asked as she wanted to laugh before Misty smirked. A diversion, she admitted as she saw Naruto release Riolu, who he then gave a command to. Quick attack, Naruto ordered as Riolu charged at coughing and kicked it into the snake Pokemon and stole the show with a smirk. What kind of Pokemon is that? Jessie asked. I don't know, Jesse James answered as Meowth glared at it, his cat-like instincts acting up. Well, whatever it is, it was worth coming here, she said as she looked at Naruto with a smirk. Little boy, why don't you hand over that little Pokemon, she said asked as Naruto smirked. Sure, why don't you two go off and kiss my ass, he mocked sarcastically. That made everyone look at him while he just smirked. Riolu is staying with me. Well, it seems like you need to be taught some manners, Jesse growled. Me too, James agreed. Meowth 3, the Pokemon said as Ekans and coughing charged after Riolu, who dodged the attacks and countered it with another quick attack. A little backup would be nice here, Naruto called as Misty nodded before noticing that Naruto ran past the Rockets with Riolu in tow. Seeing this made Team Rocket follow alongside Misty. Oh man, I still can't do anything, Ash moaned before he heard something in front of him. Pika. Pikachu? He asked as he saw his partner awake. To add to the occasion, the other Pikachu leaped on the stretcher before releasing some lightning, causing the formerly comatose Pikachu to get up and smile. Pikachu, it called as Ash blinked. Pikachu, you're back, he cried as he hugged the small mouse Pokemon, who nodded back before turning back and giving chase to the others. Hey, wait for me. Naruto meanwhile held off Team Rocket as Riolu dodged the attacks, aiming for coughing over Ekans. Misty caught up and prepared to fight before she noticed Pikachu run by her, and Ash not far behind. Pikachu, huh? He asked as he saw Pikachu heading to the bike, calling him over. Pika Pika, it called as Ash and Naruto both blinked as Ash repeated it. Pika Pika power, he said as he picked up the bike and hopped on it, forming to the blonde's suspension of disbelief. A generator, you need more power, Ash declared as everyone looked at him confused. Ash, what are you doing? Misty asked as the younger trainer smirked. Me and Pikachu are going to give them the shock of their life. Ready, Pikachu? He asked as the electric mouse nodded and hoped on. Soon it delivered a powerful shock to Team Rocket and their Pokemon. Seeing that, Naruto covered his eyes from the bright lights before he noticed the lightning mixing in with the smoke before sensing danger and covering Riolu in protection. From the outside, the entire Pokemon Center exploded as Jenny saw two different projectiles being shot from the explosion. One was Team Rocket, heading out of view, while the other was Naruto, caught in the crossfire as he landed in Viridian Forest. He didn't know how long he flew or how far he was, but upon his descent, he landed in a few trees while holding Riolu in his arms. As he let go of his Pokemon, Riolu looked tired and laid there. Soon more movement was heard as two figures approached him. What happened here? A young girl around 10 asked as another boy wearing a samurai-like helmet and a sword went over to help carry them. I do not know, but he should be lucky we found him, the boy said as he handed the blue Pokemon to the young girl and then carried the blonde shinobi inside his cabin, locking it to protect them from the beedrill that might have been disturbed from the landing. Kurama, however, remained quiet as he observed from the subconscious. The early morning sun, alongside some minor pain, was what the blonde shinobi woke up to. Soon his grunts of annoyance accompanied the sounds of the new day as he got up and clenched his head in a headache. What happened to him? Where was he and where was Riolu? However, he was interrupted when the said blue dog jumped on his stomach and showed its happiness to see his trainer all right. Naruto blinked and looked around. Where are we? You are in my cabin, a voice said as the blonde turned and saw a kid around his age with a young girl maybe a year younger. The boy looked like a samurai, holding a sword on his waist and a bug-catching net on his back, while Naruto looked at him confused. Oh, what happened? He asked nervously as the little girl answered for him. We found you and Riolu passed out. You both were asleep for a day or two, she said. Naruto gawked at that before he tried to calm himself down. This wasn't the weirdest thing he went through. He and Erosenin did worse on their training trip. Nodding, he got up and tried to remember what happened. Let's see, I was in the Pokemon Center. Team Rocket attacked me. Ash and Misty fought them off, and then his eyes widened as he remembered the explosion as Kurama snickered at the event. That explosion, wait, was everyone else okay? Naruto cried out as he ran out the door before stopping in the middle of an open clearing. He was in a forest now, one with several hundred trees filled with wild Pokemon. What the hey, where are we? Seriously, he asked again as the girl spoke up. Viridian Forest, she said as Naruto turned to her confused. Viridian Forest? Wait, wasn't that between Viridian and Pewter? Well, at the very least, he knows where he was, but still, how the hell did he live through that? You're welcome, Kurama stated as John thankfully nodded and looked to the other two. Well, thanks for looking after me? He said as Riolu ran up to him and yipped in similar gratitude. Samurai nodded as the blonde-haired girl smiled. I'm just glad everyone is okay. What happened? The girl asked as Naruto looked at her with a blank expression. Would you believe me if I said I was blown up by a kid's Pikachu and a criminal organization's purple gas Pokemon? He asked. The girl just stayed silent before seeing the Riolu nod in confirmation. How? She asked in an unsure tone as Naruto started to explain. Still, he felt like punching the kid for that. Achoo, sneezed a certain trainer as he and his now healthy Pikachu was looking around for Pokemon to catch. Geez, first you destroy my bike and now you're trying to get me sick, Misty moaned as Ash glared at her. I'm not getting sick, he snapped before he continued his search. Also, we need to find Naruto, he said as Misty erupted. That's what I was saying since we left Viridian City, she screamed as she and him were trying to find their friend since he was separated by the explosion. Wait, was he considered their friend? They all fought against Team Rocket, so that might be enough, and to Misty, and one point Ash, he seemed to get along with them. Don't worry, we'll find him, Ash said as they continued their search for their orange-wearing friend. And that's about it, Naruto finished as Yellow and Samurai both stared at him with wide eyes. You're telling us Samurai started? That you were launched from an explosion? Yellow took over. An explosion created from a kid and his Pikachu? Samurai continued. While fighting a criminal organization? Yellow finished. Yup, Riolu came the two replies from Naruto and his Pokemon as he got up and headed out. So I might as well get going. I need to head to Pewter City. Before you go, I just have one question. You said that you were a Pokemon trainer, did you not? He asked as Naruto smiled. Yeah, why? Hiya, then I challenge you to a Pokemon battle, he declared, interrupting the blonde and held out his own Pokeball. Naruto just stared. Yellow gave a look of annoyance as she really hated when her friend did this all the time. Whenever he saw a new Pokemon trainer arrive, he'd battle them whenever and most of the time lose. Naruto, however, didn't say anything at all for a good minute before looking at Riolu. You up for a battle? He asked as Riolu just shrugged. Samurai and Yellow watched the exchange confused before Yellow finally spoke her mind. You're going to let you Pokemon fight already? She scolded as Naruto looked at the straw hat-earing girl confused. Use another Pokemon instead. Well? Riolu's my only Pokemon, he admitted as Yellow and Samurai both matched the quiet atmosphere before Samurai sighed. So you are a novice, alright then. When you two get better and catch another Pokemon, then we shall battle, he said as Naruto glared at the other boy. A novice was the same thing as a dope or a loser. He could handle his own against the Akatsuki. You got one hit with that near sure kill shuriken and fought pain with me saving your ass, Kurama piped in annoyed, making Naruto twitch. Am I at least stronger than a genin or student from the academy? He questioned the fox as he could hear the fox pretend to think out loud with a hum. Physically, or mentally, because either way he teased in a sing-song voice as Naruto wanted to strangle the giant fox that could probably destroy the entire forest without even trying. Kurama, however, would have felt insulted if he knew that. What did he mean probably? Guess we do need more variety here, alright, so do you want to look for some new friends, Riolu? The blonde asked as the blue dog smiled. Naruto was excited to catch some Pokemon, but at the same time he knew he'd eventually have to leave them behind. If the elemental nations, if someone like Orochimaru was to learn about this place, and he wasn't going to just abandon his home even if he was betrayed by some old bastard. Naruto, do you even know how we got here anymore? Kurama asked him as Naruto stayed quiet. By all means he should have been dead. So if this was some kind of heaven or hell, then everyone was off. But he knew he was still alive. Kurama and him were both still alive, and that was enough to try and find a way home. As the blonde kept walking, he tried to think on what Pokemon he should try to find first. Riolu was up, but after what happened at the Pokemon Center, he didn't want to push the little guy too far. They might as well look for a weaker Pokemon to catch first before aiming towards the stronger ones. It was a good idea since he never tried to catch one before, and all he had were 5 Pokeballs with him. He was going to buy more, but he got caught up in the whole Team Rocket incident. Still, from what he was told, most bug-type Pokemon were fairly easy to catch. So we might as well do some training while we look then, he said with a smirk and formed a familiar sign with his hands before 4 shadow clones appeared, making the blonde smile. He was getting better with his control and now it was time to train. As each clone approached a tree with a kunai out, they began to try tree walking as the original continued to look. Riolu was still amazed at his trainer's abilities before stopping and looking up, sensing another presence in the area. Seeing what looked like a hairy bug with 2 stingers, Riolu barked out in alarm as Naruto looked back at the blue dog confused. What's up? He asked before he saw his partner point to the tree, revealing the Pokemon's location and making Naruto smirk. Pulling out his Pokédex, the screen flashed to life. Weedle. A common sight in forests and grassy areas. Has a stinger on its head and may use it if it is stepped on. A Weedle, Naruto muttered as he smirked. Well, it seemed weak enough to fight and be a nice warm-up. Smirking, he looked at Riolu, who nodded and prepared to fight. Alright, let's start with a quick attack, the blonde shinobi ordered as Riolu slammed into the tree and knocked the Pokemon out of it to initiate the battle. Getting up, the Weedle went and charged at Riolu in retaliation. Riolu, however, sidestepped it and countered it with another quick attack before the bug Pokemon got up and slammed against it. Feeling the needle scratching him, Riolu picked up the bug and threw it against the tree before Naruto threw his Pokeball and saw it collide with the yellow hairy bug. It didn't take long as the Weedle was caught before the shinobi picked it up and smiled. Alright, we have our first new friend, though I can't help but feel like this was a little too easy, right Riolu? He asked before he saw his Pokemon fall to the ground with a purple shade around the small scratch. Shit, Riolu, what's wrong? Hey, speak to me, Naruto called as he looked down and pulled out his Pokédex. Weedle. Often found in forests, eating leaves. It has a venomous stinger on its head. Shit, that was it, Riolu was poisoned. He needed to do something soon, he didn't have any antidote or anything, and he was going to get more in Viridian City. He needed to get help. Wait, maybe Samurai had some, he practically lived here, so that was his best bet. Picking up the small blue dog, he ran back to the cabin. Hey boss, can we stop? Keep training, ordered the original as the clones sighed and went back to work. To say Yellow was shocked to see Naruto arrive as he did was an understatement. How else could she explain how a human, aura or not, closed a distance that only something like an Arcanine or a Dodrio could accomplish? Still, that could have waited as she saw the condition of the Riolu in his arms. What happened? She demanded as she took the blue Pokemon from him as he explained the situation. The girl, however, just gazed at him with an unimpressed look, and by the end of the explanation. So he got poisoned and you ran back here. I guess Sam was right about you being a novice, she muttered before placing Riolu on a bed, who moaned in slight annoyance. Novice, Naruto growled as she sighed. Naruto, you are aware that Viridian Forest is known as the Forest of Bugs, right? And that it is infamous for its Beedrill and poisonings, right? He didn't. First time he heard of it before Yellow sighed. She didn't want to have this conversation. She had work to do. Placing her hands over the injured Pokemon, she gathered her own aura and then, to the blonde's amazement, her hands began to glow blue with a hint of green. That's Tsunade Bachan's, he thought as Kurama took interest in the effects of the girl before them. She was only around maybe 2 years younger than Naruto, still an academy student by Naruto's generation. Still, it was interesting to see a human use the mystical healing palm/show senjutsu as well as she did. Once she was done, Ryola moaned as the purple coloring was gone as she smiled at the recovering Pokemon. Turning back to Naruto, she crossed her arms and made it apparent that he did something wrong. Why did you become a trainer? She asked as Naruto blinked at the question, not what he expected. Thinking about it, he shrugged. Well, I guess since I found Ryola's egg and it hatched when I was in Pallet, I figured I could explore the world, he said. And tried to get home, something that would have confused her. Yellow frowned and turned to Ryola. How much do you know about Pokemon? Types, status, stuff like that? She asked as Naruto said nothing. He knew the basics as she seemed to catch on. You're still new to this, I can tell. Geez, thanks for that, the blonde muttered annoyed as she smirked. Still, I can tell you like Pokemon. You aren't like some trainers that just see Pokemon for their worth, she said with a compliment as Naruto looked at her. Of course, I want to see other Pokemon myself. I also want to make some friends, but I don't want to leave them behind, he said as Yellow looked confused. What did that mean? I want to bring out the best in them, and have some adventures, he admitted as the thought of being a trainer really did interest him, but he knew that he would eventually have to head back. Then don't. After all, Pokemon are like family to me. Why can't they be the same to others, she said as Naruto smirked. So are you a trainer too? Naruto asked as Yellow frowned. Her, a trainer? She liked Pokemon, but she didn't like to battle. I prefer to play with them and look after Pokemon than be a trainer. That way they don't get hurt and can be free, she said with a smile as she looked outside. Trainers force their Pokemon to fight in order for stupid things like glory or pride. I hate seeing them hurt like that. Naruto could kind of agree. He didn't want to see Ryola hurt, and now here they were with Ryola recovering again. Naruto just sighed and sat down. This was something he was torn on. Like if Kiba had Akamaru fight all his battles, or if he had Gamakichi do all the fighting while he just stared and barked orders. It was annoying, but he wanted to make sure they were strong enough to go through anything, through anyone. He thought that as Danzo and the shinobi came to mind. He was still regaining his former strength, in a place he never heard of, with creatures that all fought regardless with others in Pokemon battles. He didn't want to purposely hurt them. And I don't want to see them hurt, he muttered before smirking. That's why I want to train them to get stronger, so that way we can get farther together. Then you need to be prepared for this kind of stuff. You know, Sam can help you out, and even I can heal them when they're wounded, she offered as Naruto smirked. Seeing Ryola start to get up, he walked over to him and smiled. You alright there, Ryola? He asked as he got a small nod from the dog before he remembered his other friend. That reminds me, you mind healing Weedle too? He asked as he released Weedle from a capsule he had on him before Yellow nodded slightly. Ryola, however, looked at the hairy bug in caution as said bug looked confused. First he saw Yellow, then the idiot that attacked him, then the blonde-haired idiot that ordered the attack. He didn't know why, but when he saw Naruto, the yellow bug charged at the blonde in retaliation, only to be caught in the blonde's hands. Naruto! Yellow cried in alarm as Naruto looked nervous. Seriously, the first thing it does after it's out of the Pokeball is attack him. Kurama rolled his eyes at his Jinchuriki's ignorance. Of course it would still be pissed off that it was attacked. What would he do if he was just minding his own business before some strange idiot sent someone to attack him, imprison him, and then essentially told him, "Oh hey, sorry I attacked you like that, I just wanted to practice my kidnapping skills. Let's be friends and travel the world." Honestly, he expected worse than just wanting to sting in as revenge, but hey, he wants to sting him out of petty. He would destroy the village of the person who pissed him off. He wasn't going to argue philosophy with a small hairy bug, even if it was wrong and he was right. Guess we still have a lot of work to do. Well, either way, I'm Naruto, let's be friends, okay, Weedle? He asked as the Weedle stopped squirming before shooting a spray of silk in the blonde's face, causing him to drop Weedle to the ground and try to get the silk off. Weedle, however, crawled towards Yellow, having rather be around her than the male counterpart, as Ryola and Yellow just stared at the scene. Just another friend in the making for one Naruto Uzumaki. This was soon interrupted when Samurai came home and noticed the scene before looking at Yellow for an explanation. Their first meeting outside battle, she said as Samurai nodded before looking at the bug Pokemon himself and laughed, remembering his first encounter with the Weedle he caught. Those were glorious, humiliating but glorious memories nonetheless. So I take it you're ready to do battle? Sam asked Naruto as the blonde got the silk off and hesitantly looked to his Pokemon. Ryula was ready. Weedle gave him the stink eye, still irritated at his new trainer. I guess, but I'm not sure if I'll win, he said as Samurai shrugged. Alright then, we shall do battle at. Didn't you just get done fighting another trainer? Yellow asked with a slight glare as Samurai froze and looked away. He knew where this was going. The forest tomorrow, after our Pokemon are rested and fully relaxed, he said as Yellow nodded. Naruto just stared with a deadpan expression, reminding him of Tsunade and Jiraiya. Or Sakura and himself. Oh well, might as well take the time to know his Pokemon better then. But that reminded him. Hey Yellow, how did you do that healing thing? He asked as the little Tsunade of Kanto looked at him confused. My healing? Well, people born in Viridian Forest are given special aura from the energy of this place, so when I was born, I inherited my abilities, she said as she muttered something to herself. Or at least that's what Gramps always says. Aura? Why did that sound familiar? Before he could ask another question, he was asked one by the girl instead. But can I ask you a question, Naruto? Sure, I guess, he said, wondering what she wanted to know. Yellow has been wondering something for a while now, ever since she felt his aura from him being unconscious. It was much stronger than anyone else's. Not only that, but she could tell he was using it too. Now that she thought about it, he found Ryula's egg. And was training in his aura. That meant only one thing she could think of. Are you an aura guardian? She asked clearly as Naruto looked confused. A what? He asked as the room went quiet. It's been 3 days since the blonde shinobi had caught Weedle, and since then he has been training both his Pokemon and his own abilities. Alright Beedrill, let's use that fury attack, he said as the giant wasp nodded and rushed the blonde shinobi with the intent to pierce through him. Naruto defended himself with 2 kunai that were his own clones transformed. As Beedrill attacked the clone with its high-speed movements, the original Naruto was busy meditating while trying to recollect as much senjutsu as he could for the clones to use and train. So far he could make a total of 7 clones at a time without any drain to his reserves while he regained his basic control of water walking and tree climbing. Still not that great, but better than it was the last few days. It was slowly becoming just instinct again. Meanwhile, Naruto's other clones spared with Riolu, focusing on the blue Pokemon's strength and hand-to-hand combat. Strength and speed, Riolu and Beedrill, so far those were what he was working on with them, and hoped that they were going to be able to handle what's ahead of them. Because eventually he was going to have to go back to the elemental nations, and when that time came, then he'd have to leave them behind. He already decided to leave them with Professor Oak, since he knew the most about Pokemon, and that he had a great ranch of Pokemon behind his lab. Still, he was worried that his Pokemon would try to follow. Naruto Yellow called out to him as he looked behind him and saw the Viridian Forest-born girl approach him with a small smile. Naruto just smirked back and stopped meditating as he approached the girl. Yo, what's up? He asked as the girl smiled and crossed her arms. I wanted to make sure you didn't push your Pokemon too far. Looks like Beedrill's doing good, she commented as she saw the little Sting Happy Bee fight against one of his clones. Naruto nodded as he suddenly stopped. Seems like Riolu used his quick attack and knocked his clone through a tree. Still, it was nice to see the improvement. We're about to wrap up soon, we can't spend much more time here. After all, I need to get Mr. Time back to the museum, he said as Kurama sighed. Only this idiot would name a fossil something like Mr. Time. Yeah, besides you already beat Sammy, so I guess you'll have to be back out on your journey soon, she said sadly before the sound of a pop took the attention from them, revealing Beedrill happily floating in the air with smoke around him. Seems like he popped the clone out of existence. Naruto subconsciously placed a hand over his chest where the clone was stung. Beedrill, however, wanted another round, but Naruto sighed. We can spar later, he said as he recalled his bug Pokemon back to the Pokeball before he saw Riolu walk up to him and smiled. Still, after what happened yesterday, he was good to see Riolu recovered from the hive incident. Oh sure, he could have easily just ignored the hive Beedrill originally came from, but despite the warnings, the common sense, he wanted to give Beedrill the chance to go see them. Granted that while the wasp was well received, well, at least he and Riolu got their morning jog in before he was forced to spend the entire evening inside the cabin repairing the holes in the walls made by the Beedrill, and still he learned something from this. That Beedrill were freaking evil incarnate that held a mean grudge against anything they view as different from their swarm. That being said, he wondered why Beedrill just stayed with him. He gave him the chance to return to the hive, but the large wasp chose to remain at the shinobi's side. Well, as long as he was alright to travel with them, then he could come along. As they settled down for lunch, Naruto smiled as he ate some sandwiches the blonde girl made. Riolu settled with an apple and Yellow smiled. Well, Sam couldn't cook to save his life, and the last time he tried to cook, she still had nightmares about it. So how far can you do that sage mode thing for? She asked the shinobi as he smiled. It takes about 10 minutes to fully charge, but it can last for a good 2 hours now. That being said, he was curious about what abilities he could unlock. Still, from what it sounded like, the Aura Guardians and the sages were the same. Still, it confirmed something for him. Aura was senjutsu, and the thought that people like him, yellow people like Sir Aaron, all could do feats like that was both amazing and a bit frightening. Kurama was in a similar boat. After learning that, he thought back to the Pokemon that he heard about in the lab. Pokemon like Palkia and Dialga and Arceus. To control the very meaning of time and space, to control life and death, he knew about the Shinju that was their combined final form, but the more he thought about it, the more it worried him. The old man said that all chakra came from the Shinju. This world had something similar to chakra. Did that also mean it had its own Shinju tree? Speaking about that, the Shinju, or rather the Jubi, he was wondering what the Akatsuki planned to do with the tailed beasts, and the more he thought about it, the more it worried him. Nagato told him about a weapon with the beast's chakra. And according to what he remembered, that masked man that ripped him out of Kushina and had him attack the village, he was the one who was supposedly behind this. Perhaps it was truly for the best they wound up here. But if the Jubi was to ever awaken, he didn't want to think about that possibility. But with the Akatsuki having lost their leader, that Nagato brat, and Konan leaving the organization, who was left? Itachi, Sasori, Haiden, and Kakuzu. The only ones he can recall were that blonde brat with the clay, the fish man, the weed, and the masked man. The last two were what truly made him worry. With the weed, he sensed something off about it, something disturbing. The masked man just plain pissed him off, whether it was through control or his Uchiha's eye. Shaking his head, he wondered what their endgame was, what was going to happen to the tailed beasts that were caught, how many was caught. According to that one member, they had 2 of them, 3 at least counting the one-tailed nutcase known as Shikaku. But he sensed Saiken within that one man, so perhaps there were still more to go, or at least he hoped. And even if they were to collect them all, they needed his chakra. So with his other half being sealed away with Minato, there was no way to reach his power unless they went after the monk in the temple. Well, I guess you're getting better. Are you also going to look for a teacher then? She asked as Naruto nodded. He had to if he wanted to fully become an Aura Guardian. Still, from what he was told, they were incredibly rare to near extinct. Finding a teacher would be difficult. After all, despite him having trained with the toads, he needed to get stronger for that masked man. For Danzo, for whatever Kabuto had planned, he needed to get stronger, and if he was still a kid, then he would either become a target for the Akatsuki to take out easier or grow stronger with the extra 4 years he would get. He already learned he was in another dimension. Kurama had told him about their existence, and when he heard ideas of parallel worlds, hey, he already went through so much shit already. What was wrong with dimensional travel? Hell, summoning was literally going into one dimension and appearing out if it at a different time and location. The rest, however, didn't last long before the blonde froze, feeling a sense of dread. Something was wrong. This was proven when he heard a scream and got up. Looking toward the source, he saw something he didn't expect to see today. He saw a samurai with 2 very familiar kids and their Pikachu all running from a swarm of Beedrill. Naruto could only stare and wonder just how this happened. He knew samurai was more responsible than to somehow upset the swarm of wild giant wasps that wanted him to die, so that left. Well, I think we found someone even worse than you, Kurama said bluntly as he was amazed at how much trouble that brat caused. First he was partnered with a Pokemon that hated him, then he destroys some kid's bike, was it called, with said Pokemon that he somehow allowed to fall into a coma. He then destroys a Pokemon Center, and now somehow pissed of the swarm for the first time, he actually found someone he could say was more incompetent. That Naruto was back as a genin, and he was dragged by a dog into a minefield on one of his first missions. Yellow, Naruto, run to the cabin! Sam screamed, ignoring the shocked faces of the kids behind him at seeing the blonde shinobi again, while Yellow and Naruto both nodded and ran to the safe haven Naruto was mooching off of for the better part of the week. Once they made it, Naruto held the door open while Ryolu, Yellow made way for the 3 newcomers. Once they were in, Naruto quickly slammed the door shut and locked it before he was forced back by a stinger impaling the wood. As they were dead silent, they saw the Beedrill pull back and hover around outside the cabin, the same one that the blonde human went to hide in. Knowing that there was no way into it that would be worth it, but still, they at least got the green cocoon. Knowing they were safe, or at the very least safer, Naruto got up and sighed. Why did something happen whenever he met these kids? Speaking of which, which one of you pissed of the Beedrill swarm? He asked as the 3 looked at him before Samurai glared. The Weedle he failed to have captured had worn its skin. This is all solely on him, Samurai stated before Ash screamed in protest. How was this my fault? You were the one that interrupted me for a match, he screamed, feeling blamed for something that he didn't think was fair. Misty, however, had other things on her mind. What are you doing here, Naruto? The young girl asked as Naruto blinked before frowning. After I was blasted into the forest, thanks for that, by the way, he growled out as Pikachu looked embarrassed, while Misty and Ash looked away in shame. Both of them were worried when they learned Naruto was launched into the Viridian Forest. But after that, Yellow found me and I was here training Riolu and Beer, my other Pokemon, for the last 4 days. Well, I'm glad you're alright, Naruto, Misty said as Naruto nodded. Yellow was confused as she looked at the kids, more accurately, Samurai and Ash. She was unsure what to think about him, but looking at the cabin, she sighed. Looks like they were going to have to patch up the holes again. Later that night, Naruto sighed as he looked up from his spot next to the cabin. The Beedrill were gone, and now he was able to relax. The cabin seemed to be okay now since they all patched up the holes. Still, he had a lot on his mind. Naruto, a voice called out to him as he expected to see Yellow. Instead, he saw the face of Misty. "See, can I talk to you?" she asked as he shrugged. "Why not? He could probably use the company." "What's up?" he asked her as she looked down slightly. "Well, do you think you could talk to Ash?" she asked as Naruto looked at her curious. Why? Nothing against the kid, but why would she want him to talk to Ash? "Why?" he asked, confused, getting up as she sighed. "He's an idiot, but he's not a terrible person," she said as she gained the blonde's attention. "Where did that come from? Ash, he's still beating himself over Metapod." Oh, so that was it. Still, he could understand. That being said, he looked at the girl in question. "Look, I don't know what happened, but from what you guys told me, Samurai challenged Ash, he let a Weedle escape and you got chased by Beedrill, not to mention Ash lost Metapod, his first Pokemon." A minute went by before Naruto sighed. "Naruto. It's late, Misty, I'll talk to him tomorrow," he said as she looked at him with a small smile. "Thanks, Naruto," she muttered as she looked back. "Ash is a good trainer when he doesn't let his pride get the best of him." Naruto smiled at the praise the girl sent to the hat-wearing trainer before he heard her cover it up. "But he's still an idiot, and has a long way to go before he can become a Pokemon master," she said as Naruto laughed at that. "We're still kids, we all have a long way to go, but that's what makes it worth it, I guess," he said before deciding to go to bed. He was going to busy tomorrow morning. The next day, Naruto and the others woke to the sounds of an explosion. Safe to say that they were shocked to be woken up like that. What?" the samurai cried out in shock before getting out of bed. What's going on?" Yellow cried out in alarm as Naruto moaned. 10 more minutes, Kakashi-sensei," he muttered in his sleep before Misty looked around. "Wait, where's Ash?" she asked as no one said anything before she looked outside and ran towards the door with Samurai grabbing his gear and Yellow kicked the blonde shinobi up. What? Why?" he said, now up before he noticed Samurai return with his armor on and Misty and Pikachu but no Ash. "What's going on?" he asked as Yellow looked worried. "Explosions and no Ash," she said as Naruto stayed quiet before he was up and suddenly wide awake. "What the heck did that mean? Unless you had to be kidding, don't tell him Ash went to get Metapod." "Quickly, we must go and find the novice before he irritates the Beedrill or worse," he said as Misty nodded. As they all left to find Ash, she could only imagine what the Beedrill would do to whichever unlucky victim they came across. Run for your lives," Jessie screamed as she and James ran by the cabin with Meowth right behind them with Beedrill not far behind while Samurai and Misty hid in the bushes, Naruto and Yellow hid behind a tree. "Team Rocket, I should have known." "Rocket, wait, weren't those the thieves from the Pokemon Center?" he asked confused, wondering if he was still dreaming. Misty sighed and shook her head. "I'll tell you about it later, right now we need to find Ash," she said as he nodded before some of the bug Pokemon caught sight of them. Recalling his Pokeball, he sent out Riola from his nap, having to return him to make more room for the others the night earlier. "Hey, Riola," he called as the blue dog stretched his body, "I need you to help use with any Beedrill that come by them. You guys go ahead, I'll distract them." What? Naruto Misty called before Samurai nodded. "We will leave these to you, don't be reckless," he said as he and the others eventually left. Hopefully he could buy some time until they found Ash. Until then. "Clones it is," he said as he summoned 3 clones that smirked. Looking at Riolu. "Riolu, quick attack." As Misty looked back, she frowned as they lost Naruto again. Yellow sighed as she knew he was going to get into a fight, but this early? "If you are worried about Naruto, then do not worry, he is a very powerful trainer," Samurai said, knowing about his abilities he was training for the last few days. Yellow wasn't as optimistic. "He's still reckless," she added as Misty looked back ahead. "Well, if you were right when he beat you, then alright, but we need to find Ash and then go back for Naruto," she said, not wanting to have Ash's stupid choices. Yes, what a stupendous battle it was. Through great focus, he had came out victorious against his own Metapod. Yellow, however, was unimpressed. It was mostly Metapod versus Kakuna. The only reason it ended was because after 10 minutes of using Harden, Naruto recalled it for Riolu and attacked Metapod by having Riolu hit it against a tree like a club. Sure, it didn't do much damage from the defensive boost, but the fact it couldn't move to defend it made it pretty one-sided. She could only imagine something else. What would match that weight? What Pokemon did he use against Metapod? Yellow asked as Misty sighed. He used Metapod. Yes, Misty answered bluntly as Yellow lost some faith in her friend's battling style. As soon as they found Ash, however, he was holding Metapod, who looked like was fatally struck. Metapod, hey, are you alright? He asked, worried about the small cocoon as soon as it started glowing and a form came from the glowing wound. A blue butterfly, Butterfree. The evolved form of Metapod. Seeing this made Ash and the others relieved as they soon noticed the remaining swarm of Beedrill approaching. Guess they either got tired of chasing Team Rocket or Naruto felt they knew that answer as Ash looked to his newly evolved Pokemon and smiled. Alright then, he said with a smirk. Butterfree used sleep powder, he ordered as the blue bug released some green dust in the air. Behind in some bushes stood Naruto, watching silently in amazement. Seeing the Beedrill caught in the green mist, he could honestly say that he was surprised. Then again, seeing him take out a whole swarm of Beedrill was amazing to say the least. Pokemon Master, how he thought to himself as he grew a bit of respect to the younger kid. Kurama, however, rolled his eyes at his sheer dumb luck. If the brat wanted to be some kind of professional pet owner, then he need more than just to have a lucky break. Then again, that lucky break reminded him of the brat he was sealed inside of. Perhaps he was judging too early. Again, he would have to wait and see just what kind of potential this Ash kid had. That was the last thoughts they had before the clone vanished into the green dust-filled air. So you're really coming with us? Ash asked as Naruto shrugged. Why not? Besides, I have nothing really better to do. Traveling together might be kind of fun, he said as they all made their way to Pewter City. Saying goodbye to Yellow and Samurai, or rather Sam, despite his protests of wanting to sound cooler, the 3 kids and 2 Pokemon left. So you aren't mad about the Pokemon Center? Ash asked nervously as he smirked. Oh, well, I can understand the situation. After all, it isn't your fault. If anything, it was the Rocket's fault. Misty smiled and turned to him. So, what are you going for, Naruto? Misty asked as he turned around. What was he going for? Yeah, I want to be a Pokemon Master. Misty wants to be a water Pokemon Master, so what about you? Ash asked as he thought about it. Don't know, I entered the Pokemon League to find out more about Kanto, so I guess I want to just see the world, he admitted. There was something to traveling with Erosenin that made him want to see the world. So now that he could travel as a trainer, he'd see how this would all play out. Pokemon League? Ash asked as Naruto smirked. Oh, if Ash was going to enter, then this would be a fun event for sure. As they continued walking, they were unaware of the Pokemon watching them, a black crow that looked like it was wearing a hat before it flew off. Elsewhere, a man walked by the Pokemon Center of Pewter City and looked towards a small black fox Pokemon Azora as he thought about his meeting with the shinobi he once hunted. As he looked up into the sky, he wondered many things, about his brother, his so-called mission with this arcades woman. He should be dead, but here he was. Alive, given a second chance. So Naruto-kun, he thought as his black eyes shifted into a deep crimson with a 3-tomo pattern. How much have you grown since we last met? Naruto Uzumaki sighed as he walked along the path to Pewter City. He would have thought that traveling together with others would have been fun, but apparently he forgot one small detail about traveling. We're lost. Misty shouted, annoyed, as Ash responded with a similar echoing tone. We are not! He cried out as Naruto sighed, as he really was getting tired of their constant arguing. Still, at least Samurai said that they were on the right path, so if they just kept going then they'd reach it eventually. As they were busy doing their own thing, Riolu and Pikachu both sighed at the arguing pair before Riolu turned over to his new friend. And they were fighting about this for? He asked as Pikachu sighed. 5 minutes, he responded. Honestly, he was happy to have some company. It was annoying to travel without anyone to talk to, and seeing the blue dog as his only other companion he had to talk with, he was incredibly happy. Still, he wondered what the other Pokemon were like. Naruto was going to bring out his other Pokemon, but after what happened with the Wasp's family, he thought better against it. So when do you think we're going to get there? Riolu asked as Pikachu shrugged. He didn't know, but hopefully it would be before the bike was brought up. He really hated when that was brought up. It never would seem to end, but at least he wasn't the only one to suffer now. Hopefully soon. So what's Naruto like as a trainer? He asked as Riolu smirked. Great, he's doing what he can to make us ready to take on the Pokemon League, he said as the yellow mouse sighed. It was bad enough some humans capture them, but make them fight. However, seeing the expression on the blue dog's face, he sighed. I don't know how well I'm going to do, but I want to see the world and make friends. And so far he considered Beedrill a friend, and likewise with the wasp. Still he wanted to see the world, get stronger, make new friends, and so on. Beedrill wanted something as well. Naruto meanwhile was going on about trying to figure out what he was going to do when he got to the city. He still needed to drop off the fossil at the Pewter City Museum, and then take on the gym leader. Come to think of it, if Ash was going to compete as well, he'd have to do the same thing, so it might be nice to see how he does first. Smirking mischievously, he thought about making Ash bait in order to see what he was going to be dealing with. It was a simple strategy of the shinobi. Ash was just an unlucky decoy that sent him flying, have to make him fight some Beedrill, but he forgave the circumstances and called them even. Then again, Kakashi always said to use his head more, and diversion was his specialty. Hey, you okay, Naruto? Misty asked as the blonde just kept smiling. Ash, however, felt nervous before the blonde spoke up. So, Ash, you are entering the league too, right? He asked as he got a nod before his smirk grew in size. Great, then you can go first, we'll cheer you on from the sidelines, right, Misty? I have the need to ask why, she admitted as he kept his smile. Darkness was the opposite of light, but when there is darkness and light and darkness, then was there really any difference to them? He did all he could to protect his brother. He was what he was told to become, what he hid behind as a front. He made lies into a reality to others, keeping the truth under an illusion yet. Oh, so you're up. About time, a woman said as a young man with matching eyes and hair moaned. Where was he? Was he dead? Did Sasuke did his disease? Looking up and holding his head, he noticed he was in a strange white void with the woman smiling at him, as if she was reading his mind. You are not dead, at least not yet, little Uchiha, she said with a small smirk as he got up and looked her over. Are you an angel? He asked as he narrowed his eyes before finding out he was unable to use his chakra. Still, he wouldn't give her the victory of seeing him worry. I am an observer and I deal in many things regarding the world of Pokemon, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. My name is Arcades, and I have been watching you, Itachi Uchiha, she said as he slipped into a fighting stance. However, the woman didn't look intimidated, she looked instead. You are a prodigy that cloaked himself in illusions, a man who was forced to take the veil of darkness and take the role of the one that sought power. All for the sake of your little brother. Itachi narrowed his eyes before letting her continue. She knew about that then. Your eyes tell the picture, she said, referring to his Sharingan. Tell me, you killed your family that plotted against your home. Your friends were killed, your clan would have followed, but you sold yourself to the War Hawk to keep your brother safe and sound. So with that out in the air, did you accomplish your task? Arcades, what is the point of bringing this up? He asked, feeling her words start to sting as she sighed. Though you acted in darkness in the name of light, your actions have consequences. You tried to manipulate your brother into his own lies and beliefs and had the young Uzumaki take him with him back to the village with that little eye of yours. So you do know. Who are you? How do you know this? Why can't you use your chakra? She mimicked playfully. Why am I talking to you? The matters are all obvious. You failed, she said bluntly as he looked at her in shock. Failed? What did she mean, fail? Before he could ask further, he was assaulted by visions of the elemental nations of Sasuke joining the Akatsuki and facing the Eight Tails Jinchuriki of Naruto defeating his leader, Pain, in the ruins of Konoha before being killed by Danzo. As the visions faded, he was left staring at the woman in shock. There was no way he miscalculated. His brother was now the thing he wanted to avoid. His friend, the same child of the man he respected as the fourth Hokage, was betrayed by the same War Hawk that made the deal to begin with. He knew that Danzo was an optimist, and having Shusui's Sharingan as well as the Kyuubi. There is still hope, Arcades piped in as Itachi turned to her as she smirked. As I said, you aren't dead yet, which means I can still revive you back to the elemental nations, she said with a smirk. Itachi narrowed his eyes at that. She could, but at what cost? And in exchange? He asked as she was impressed. She knew that Itachi was smart, there was always something in return. He really reminded her of Raven. Of course, you see, you shinobi are all going out and doing missions. Well, how about you help me with my mission? She offered as she explained the details. Eventually Itachi sighed. A second chance, a chance to redeem my mistakes by helping fight against this void, and you will not be doing this alone. Still, you will be a bit younger by receiving your partner, as I already explained more, so the memory loss will kick in soon enough. I already agreed to this. My mistakes and my failures, I have already bloodied my hands and walked the path of darkness. If it means helping my brother out of that same darkness, then I will do whatever I can to atone for my sins. Arcade smirked. That was why she picked him. She needed someone, a prodigy, someone who could navigate through the darkness, but one to be lead himself. Who knows, you might find something else while you're there. Perhaps happiness, a life freed from the hatred, you might even have a family life. I want to return to the elemental nations as soon as I can. I don't have time to distract myself, he rebuked, not wanting to abandon the reason he was here in the first place. Arcade sighed. He still took things a little too seriously. Well, for now, just find yourself and train with your new abilities and your partner. He will become an important part as well as your fellow shinobi also. You still have some time. Just take it easy and prepare for the sudden pain. Pain? What did she mean by? Itachi's agonizing screams echoed in the void as he grew younger, and an egg formed. Setting him up, she was preparing her next night against the Void. It's been a month since he first arrived here, another since the second shinobi appeared, and while Zoro looked around, he waited on Yu's instructions to prepare for a battle to test the next shinobi sent. Still, he didn't expect to see Naruto of all people be selected. That being all said, he waited until he saw a familiar figure approach the main doors of the museum. Naruto looked around as he and his Ryolu entered the building. Man, this place is huge. Let's find the guy we need to deliver this fossil for and head to the Pokemon Center. Alright, he said as he was met by a young woman with a lab coat. Oh, you must be Naruto. We was just talking about you. Professor Oak just called and told us you would be arriving, she said as Naruto smiled. He called Oak at the Pokemon lab before heading out to the museum. He also made a clone to watch Ash battle against Brock, so right now was just relaxing and preparing a strategy against him. Kid, there comes a time that you make me uncharacteristically proud and disturbed at the same time, Kurama mocked as the blonde just took it in stride. He knew it was his way of saying you aren't as bad as you were before. Soon enough, a man appeared with a smile. So, you are Professor Oak's young aide. Well done, young lad. But where are my manners? I am Professor Plum, head of the Pewter City Museum of all things Pokemon, historic or intriguing to the minds of others. Nice to meet you, he said as he greeted, feeling like he was meeting Guy or Lee again. Still, he came off a bit overbearing, but still he seemed nice. And I was recently informed by Samuel that you are currently taking the League Challenge. Is that not true? He asked as Naruto nodded. Excellent. I heard that he sent out 4 kids with a hidden 5th one filled with potential, so what Pokemon do you currently possess to help you face the vigorous league? He asked as Naruto felt a bit creeped out before smiling. Beedrill and Riolu, I am hoping to catch some later, but I want to have quality over quantity, have something like a family, you know, he said as the man smiled. There is nothing wrong with that. Me and an associate I met on an expedition also have a similar mindset. He desires to explore the world. I was supposed to meet him around here. Ah, there he is right now. Turning around, Naruto was met with a familiar face, rather one that looked at him emotionlessly while his creeped-out mood turned into one of disbelief and soon to be anger, but before he could say anything. It has been a while, Naruto-kun, Itachi said as he embraced the shinobi with a hug before whispering something into his ear. I will explain everything, he whispered as he let go and addressed the older man. Are you two well acquainted? He asked as Itachi spoke up. We are from the same village. I was undercover for the international police under orders from his former teacher, Jiraiya. I was tasked to investigate Team Rocket, though now that my mission is over, I hope we can start over as friends, right, Naruto-kun? Naruto said nothing at first before nodding, understanding the meaning. Jiraiya did mention something about a spy in Akatsuki feeding him information, but Itachi, freaking Itachi Uchiha? Really? Why yeah, I hope we can catch up, the blonde said, barely holding back a twitch as he looked to the older shinobi with a glare that Itachi ignored. He has a lot of things to tell me about his mission, don't you, big brother, Itachi? The Uchiha grunted, knowing he was going to have to deal with the Uzumaki's ire until they were alone, and he explained it all, but maybe he could escape this encounter after all. Professor Plum, I'm sure that Naruto would like a tour of the museum. Would you be so kind as to show him around? He asked as Naruto looked at him, betrayed as Plum looked like he was filthy rich. A young man wanting a tour, say no more. Taking the Uzumaki by the hand, Plum went and started his infamous 3-hour tour while Itachi just smirked. He was probably going to pay for this, but he needed to do something else. Oh, and Naruto, I'll see you at Maiden's Peak, he called out as Naruto glared, only to see him walk through a door and disappear from sight. Now here we have many fossils of the Plum began his tour as Naruto moaned. He already had a clone at the gym with Ash and Misty, so he couldn't escape with another one unless he get others suspicious. He was in a way trapped, and he knew it. Kurama just sighed as he started to go to sleep. He didn't care about this stuff. He was just assuming all this technology was just this world's version of Jutsu or what that other continent had. Oh well. Enjoy the tour, Naruto. Meanwhile, the clone looked at Misty and Ash leave as he needed time to think. That Onyx was a monster, something he didn't know if Riola could beat just because of its size alone. Still, he tried to think of something to use, but he couldn't think of anything. He thought about using one of Misty's water Pokemon but soon decided against it. He wanted to use his own Pokemon, his own friends to beat the league, not be a cop-out and have someone win it for him. Still, Ash did well against it. If it was another type, Ash might have won. Maybe that's what Flint was talking about. I thought I would find you here. We have a lot to talk about, Naruto-kun, a voice belonging to Itachi, said as the clones slipped into a fighting stance. Itachi, however, pointed to the nearby forests. There they would fight uninterrupted. This was a matter between shinobi. Hidden among the other trainers, they would decide that there. Nodding, the clone followed the former Akatsuki member silently into the night. There was something going on, more than just the Pokemon League. Naruto needed answers. And Itachi was the pre-verbal piñata that he was going to beat them out of. As Naruto and Itachi both appeared outside the forest, Naruto sighed as Riolu appeared behind him. Sora smirked to itself as it looked at the other Pokemon in an interested way. He heard about what kind of person Naruto was, so a Pokemon trained by him was bound to have some potential. Alright, give me one good reason why I shouldn't kick your ass right now, Naruto demanded as Itachi remained neutral. He could tell that he was still angry with the whole thing. He couldn't blame him. Naruto, I take it you know about the Akatsuki and Danzo's ideals, but before that there is something I want to take back, he said before his Sharingan spun to become the Manjiki Sharingan. Naruto was on guard before he froze, holding his throat in pain. Riolu instantly went over to him before Itachi and Zora vanished from view. Riolu was scared as his trainer was in pain. So to see his trainer cough out a crow took him by surprise. Itachi meanwhile was happy that his clone activated the little plan for Sasuke he had, but now he needed to retrieve the Sharingan he left the blonde shinobi. Before the crow could even move, it was slowly burned by black flames before the older shinobi arrived and pulled out a red eye and sealed it in a storage seal placed on his sleeve. At least that way he could talk to Naruto easier now. Cough cough, speaking of which. What the hell, why did that crow come out of my mouth? How are you even still alive? Answer me, you damn asshole. Naruto, Itachi interrupted before he looked at him with his Sharingan activated before he was forced to block an attack, and that was easy to do. Naruto had grown quite powerfully in the last few years, but as a kid again, he was only at half the strength. Kicking the blonde into a tree, he saw the shinobi get up and make a familiar hand sign. Soon 2 clones appeared as they rushed at him. Itachi just made a clone of his own and kept his eye on the original. Meanwhile, Riolu was about to interrupt before he was forced to jump back from a dark purple ball of energy aimed at him. Sorry, but no interfering with this little exchange, the dark type said as Riolu glared before rushing at the other Pokemon. If this dark-type Pokemon was Itachi's Pokemon, then as Naruto's partner he would fight just as hard. Naruto watched the original Itachi's chakra as he gathered natural energy as Itachi remained calm, doing the same. Naruto could sense that Itachi was doing the same. He somehow became a sage. He didn't know how, he didn't care how, but right now, he needed to fight, he needed to win. Poof poof. Naruto sensed his clones vanish before he smirked, feeling some of Kurama's chakra being drawn to him. Entering what he called Tail 1 mode, he charged at the clone before sending out a red arm of chakra at the clone. He smirked when the clone reached the target but was sent back when the clone exploded. As he regained his bearings and landed on a tree, Itachi was behind him, ready to fight. Riolu was busy dodging another shadow ball as the smaller fox smirked and launched another one. This was really getting annoying. Hold still, Zora muttered as he tried to hit his target as Riolu jumped into a tree and glared. You're going to need to do better than that, the blue dog Pokemon teased at the black fox smirked. Well then, let's step it up, he said with a smirk as he ran at the other Pokemon with a high speed. Riolu could only look confused as he met the attack head-on with a quick attack before he was launched skywards in pain. What that wasn't a quick attack? He muttered before he was hit again as Zora smirked. You might be strong, but I'm smart, he muttered as he landed on a branch. With his aerial ace, it was in the bag. A flying type attack against a fighting type, it was clear enough. Ryuga, Naruto called out as he was struck by a punch from the Uchiha, and turned his attention back to the older shinobi. Not going down, he made 3 more shadow clones and rushed before forming a Rasengan. Itachi smirked and jumped back before spitting out a large fireball. As Naruto and his clones were engulfed by the inferno, Itachi jumped back, seeing another arm reach for the tree behind him, Naruto rushing in with the Rasengan still in hand. I'm impressed, you certainly came far since we last met still, so have I, he said as Naruto was hit by several black flames. Gritting his teeth, the blonde pushed the fox's chakra into him, turning into a pseudo-fourth tail stage before the chakra formed an opening that the blonde escaped from. That was when he saw red. Ryulu glared as he looked at the black fox's smirk, ever present, and no sign of leaving as he got up. Aerial ace, he needed to find some way to avoid it, but it seemed impossible. This was bad. Naruto was in some kind of trance, and he needed to find a way to defeat Zora. Well, this was fun, but I think it's time we finish it, Zoro said as Ryola glared. This was bad and he needed a plan. Wait, maybe. That was it. Smirking, he closed his eyes and began to prepare for the hit. Zoro was confused by this but thought nothing of it. It was easier to accept defeat. With one last aerial ace, Zoro charged straight forward only to feel himself be grabbed and thrown into a tree. I thought so, Ryola muttered before he looked at the fox, back on his feet, and glared. What did he just? I know your trick, he called as he stood his ground. As the Zoro looked down confused. Knew his trick? Did that mean he could avoid? No. Aerial ace was unavoidable unless he used something like protect, but he didn't. Ryola waited for the black fox to charge again, waiting for the right opportunity. After all, if he couldn't dodge it, then maybe he could counter it. Finish it right? He asked tauntingly as Zoro smirked before Zoro rushed in with one last aerial ace before Ryola grabbed the fox and threw him back at a tree. This time, however, he countered with a quick attack, slamming it into the forest. As Zoro got up from the attack, he was met with the blue dog smirking. What, just so that was it? You took the attack and hit me in a blind spot, but even with that, how are you still standing? Zoro demanded as Ryola smirked. True, with all those attacks, he should have fainted, but he endured the hits he used endure. And now he had a way to fight back. And he was going to enjoy this. One move, this will finish it, Ryola stated as his right paw started to glow with aura. Zoro had just growled, so he found a blind spot a true Pokemon could cover for that weakness. Aerial ace, Zoro called before rushing at the blue dog, and Ryola just stood still. Soon, however, Zoro shot out a small shadow ball, causing Endure to fade before Zoro made his move. As Ryola jumped out of the way, aerial ace hit and Zoro chuckled. This was a fun battle. No, not yet, Ryola called out as he glared at the other Pokemon and smirked. Zoro could only look on in shock as Ryola remained conscious and his paw was covered in blue energy. This might be a Rasengan, but this still hurts, he called as he bit Zoro and held him before he maneuvered to a tree branch and started to rush at the ground with his glowing paw on the black Pokemon's chest. Force Palm, Ryola cried out as they landed and were hit with a huge shock wave of aura, sending them both back. Ryola hit a tree, falling unconscious as Zoro tried to get up. That was a critical hit, a one-hit KO. Still, he muttered as he lost consciousness. It was a good fight, one to have a rematch with to end their draw. Itachi looked at retrained by chains Naruto, who was still glaring at the Uchiha and growling as Kurama watched on cautiously before Itachi finally spoke up, unaware of the fox watching. Now, I think I should explain myself, he said as he approached the younger shinobi as Naruto spat at him. You torment Sasuke, try to catch me, beat the shit out of me, and expect me to listen? He shouted as he tried to get free as Itachi sighed. You are well aware of Danzo, are you not? He asked as Naruto narrowed his eyes. Several years ago, after the Kyuubi attack on the village, tensions rose between the Uchiha clan and soon they began to plot against the village. What, you expect me to believe that shit? Naruto cried out as Kurama spoke up, revealing himself behind the bars of the seal. Calm down, brat, he growled as he glanced at the Uchiha, who was getting ready to use a stronger genjutsu if needed. Kurama merely closed his eyes. I can tell you're being honest. Even from the seal I could sense their hatred and negativity. Are you defending me / are you defending him? Came the two replies from both Naruto and Itachi, while Naruto was more of a scream while Itachi was a muttering. My abilities is able to sense negative emotions, so I can tell if he's lying, but if he wants to explain what happened, he better start, he threatened as Itachi nodded, still a little shocked at the Kyuubi of all things coming to his defense. My clan planned to overthrow the village, but the third Hokage had loyal shinobi in the Uchiha. I was one of them. The other was a shinobi named Shursui Uchiha. He was like a brother to me. We grew up together as rivals, and we both agreed to stop the coup any way we could. And killing them was your idea? Naruto demanded as Itachi looked away and sighed. Shursui's idea was to place a genjutsu with his own Manjikyu Sharingan. This genjutsu would hypnotize the clan into remaining loyal to the village, but I learned that Danzo had attacked and took one of his eyes, the second eye he gave to me, and in turn, to you, he said as a crow appeared and landed on Itachi's shoulder. You considered Sasuke like a brother, so I knew that if he tried to flee or abandon the village again that you would stop him. And if he implanted my eyes, that same genjutsu would have activated. I was a fool for believing he would have returned to the village after my demise. That still doesn't answer for why you killed the others and forced Sasuke down that road, Naruto said, looking at Kurama as he nodded his head, confirming it was the truth. Danzo made a deal that I could spare Sasuke, who would have been killed by the Umbu root, and with Shursui's eye I didn't want to test it. Sasuke was my brother, and by killing me, his evil older brother, he would have avenged the clan. There was another reason, however. Another reason? Naruto asked as Itachi nodded. A lone masked Uchiha, who claimed to be Madara. He wished to recruit me, claiming he would destroy it with the Kyuubi, like before. What? That masked Naruto muttered in shock as memories of Tobi, as he called himself, appeared in his mind. That bastard! Kurama roared in fury. He controlled me, so he was behind it? I wanted to keep an eye on him, and sent whatever information I had to both Jiraiya-sama and the village, but after the third Hokage died I wanted to make sure that Danzo remembered our deal. I threatened to reveal everything I knew, Itachi said as Naruto said nothing and looked down. Then all this time, you were on our side, you wanted to protect the village like Nagato, Naruto muttered as Itachi looked confused but said nothing about it. He'd ask him another time. Naruto, I know you have no reason to forgive me, or even trust me, but when I died, I expected to answer for my mistakes, but I woke and met a woman named Arcades. Woman, Arcades is awake, you know her? He shouted as Itachi shook his head. Not clearly, but I know three things. 1. We were both brought here to fulfill some purpose. 2. If we are to fulfill that purpose, then we are going to have to work together. And be honest, I don't want any more half-truths or lies anymore. I want to know I can trust you. I need to know everything you know about Arcades, Naruto said as Itachi nodded. I agree, it would be pointless to hide behind my illusions by this point. So I will answer honestly from now on, but please understand that there are some secrets I want to be kept buried, he said as Naruto nodded hesitantly. Sure, I mean Kurama doesn't want anyone to know his name, but… You idiot, you just told him! Kurama scolded as Naruto blinked and realized his slip-up. Whoops? He asked unsure as Itachi looked at the beast confused as Kurama just sighed. Since you're going to ask, but before that, maybe you can answer some questions about the Akatsuki, Kurama said as they continued to talk. Once the Tsukuyomi ended, Naruto and Itachi both grabbed their heads in pain. Itachi's eye was bleeding while Naruto's head was killing him. Kurama was frustrated. A statue holding the other-tailed beast, no doubt it was the Jubi. That masked Uchiha wanted to awaken it. And if that was the case, then he needed Naruto to get stronger. If what Itachi said was true, then this was really a lucky break for them. So then now what? Naruto asked out loud as Itachi just sighed. Well, there was one last thing we needed to do. As I'm sure you know, we aren't as strong as we were back at the elemental nations. We're slower, sloppier, and have less control than we did before, so the last thing we need to do is train both ourselves and our Pokemon. Yeah, I have been training in my control, but still, it's not really all that much, Naruto said as he recalled his spars with his clones, his chakra control exercises. Indeed, but clones and practicing can only get you so far. That's why I needed to test you. You have grown much stronger than you were when you were still a kid, but you still have a ways to go. Meanwhile, I still need work on my own abilities. He didn't have the limits of a Jinchuriki or an Uzumaki. So what are you suggesting? Naruto asked as Itachi smirked. We both grow stronger, together as partners, he said as he held his hand out as Naruto stared in disbelief. You're willing to train me? He asked as Itachi nodded. If the masked man is indeed after this Jubi, as Kurama-san put it, then he will be far stronger than we both would have thought, and if he's training Sasuke, then that's all the more reason to work together, so please, he said looking down and smiling sadly. Please join me, and help me save my brother, and the shinobi world, he asked as Naruto slowly smiled. Hey, do you even have to ask? I still need to punch that idiot brother of yours to make him open his eyes, and I'm not going to turn my back on my friends and my dreams. I'm still the one who's going to be Hokage, and no matter what happens I won't give up no matter what. Itachi just smiled and nodded. Then we still have some time, so how about a second round? Itachi offered as Naruto smirked before he thought of something. Ah, that's right, real Lahiz. Boom. As a large explosion occurred, Naruto and Itachi saw their Pokemon finish their match and went to them. Their match would wait. Right now they needed to get to the Pokemon Center. And with that, the two shinobi recalled their Pokemon and went to the Pokemon Center, unaware of a pair of green eyes from a pink-haired girl sitting in one of the trees. About time those two got along, she muttered as she wagged her tail and smirked. Arcades would be pleased to know 2 of her knights had met, or rather 3 if you counted her Kurami-kun, and she was going to have fun playing with the grumpy fox. With that, she wondered how that other child of prophecy was doing. Her answer came in the form of a flash of lightning as that crazy plan to juice up that Pikachu came into effect. Perhaps she would get some entertainment, after all. And with that being said, she vanished in a flash of light, reporting back to her master, her Lady Arcades. Alright, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the setup chapter is over. Now's the time we earn our first badge, right? Ryola, Naruto cheered as Ryola nodded, confused about the whole setup chapter thing. Naruto, are you sure you don't want to borrow Zora? Itachi asked, offering his own partner to help the blonde shinobi out in his gym battle. Naruto said nothing and smirked. I already told you, this is something I want my Pokemon to earn over being given, he said as he agreed that he was using his Pokemon over a borrowed one, otherwise he would have borrowed one of Misty's. Besides, he had a plan that would help him out, besides it was going to be a good day, he could feel it. Very well then, I'll be watching it from the sides. Good luck, Naruto, Ryoru Itachi said as they approached the Pewter City gym as they noticed a familiar girl with orange hair. Either Misty was here for Ash or she was just curious about their match. Naruto, there you are. Who are you? The young girl asked as she looked confused at Itachi. Naruto smirked and introduced his newest friend, former enemy and brother to his friend. Right, Misty, this is Itachi. He's the brother of a friend of mine. I met him when I delivered the fossil off to Professor Plum, Naruto explained as Itachi nodded. Nice to meet you, I'm Misty, she greeted as Itachi nodded his head in confirmation. So, are you a trainer as well? She asked as Itachi nodded. Yes, this is my partner, Zoro, he said as a Pikachu appeared behind him, making the girl look confused. That looks like an ordinary Pikachu to me, she said. Was it a nickname then? Looks can be deceiving, he replied with a small smirk as the illusion fell, revealing the dark-furred fox in its glory. Misty just stared as she never saw a Pokemon like that. What kind of Pokemon is that? She asked in amazement. Itachi smirked but kept quiet. As he walked past her, Naruto smirked. Don't let him get to you, he's just normally secretive. Honestly, it's glad to see him socialize with others, Naruto said as Misty nodded in understanding. It was something different than her own sisters that made her wonder if Naruto was eventually going after their badge next. So are you sure you don't want to borrow my Pokemon? All you have is Riolu and Beedrill, she said, shivering at mention of the bug Pokemon whose hive chased her and Ash in the forest. I told you already, we're doing it our way. If we went off borrowed Pokemon, then what's the point of doing it at all, he said as Misty sighed. He was as stubborn as Ash was. Hopefully he was a better battler though. Because Ash's idea was to rely on Pikachu and Naruto's plan was Riolu. And with that, the blonde shinobi entered the building. Looking around, he saw Itachi and Zoro waiting for him while he walked up to a kid maybe a year or two older than Ash was. So I take it you're Brock, he muttered with a smirk, as he recalled the memories of his clone as Brock smirked. I take it you want a gym badge like your friend? He asked as Naruto and Riolu smirked. Seeing this, the gym leader smirked. Well, I hope you're better than your friend is. Don't know, I was only a trainer a little over a week going on 2, he admitted as Brock was caught off guard. To be honest, I'm still a rookie, but we're still giving it our best shot. I see, alright. So we both use 2 Pokemon each. Will go on until one of us runs out of Pokemon. I take it you're using that. What Pokemon is that again? He asked as Naruto smirked. Riolu, he said as Brock nodded. At least it wasn't an electric type for a disadvantage. Very well, then let's get started, Brock said as he snapped his fingers and the floor slid open to prepare the battlefield. Itachi and Misty made their way to the stands as Naruto and Brock both took their opposing sides, Riolu next to Naruto and Brock sending out his first Pokemon, a floating rock head with 2 arms. Just so you know, gym battles aren't like normal ones, Brock warned as Naruto sighed. I know, that Flint guy told me already. I know what you can do, I saw what you can do, but you don't know much about us. Right, Riolu? He asked his partner as the blue dog nodded, ready to go. Flint, okay, then the first move is yours. Riolu, quick attack, Naruto ordered as Brock seemed disappointed. Using a normal move against a rock type isn't very effective, however, he would have to counter it then. Geodude, tackle, Brock ordered before Riolu and Naruto smirked before Riolu jumped into the air, having the attacks miss each other before Naruto smirked. Take cover, the blonde ordered as Riolu hid behind one of the boulders as Brock smiled. Hiding already? But he was going to need more than that to protect him. Geodude, go through the boulders, he ordered as Riolu was forced to jump back as the rock-type Pokemon burst through the now rubble and continued the fight. As the battle turned into a game of cat and mouse, with Riolu hiding behind a boulder and Geodude breaking them, Misty was looking on confused and slightly frustrated. Naruto's doing better than Ash, but all he can do is run away. Why isn't he attacking? She wondered before Itachi spoke up. He already has, he said as he looked at the field. Despite what you think, this is all part of a plan of his. Plan? You mean he has a plan? Misty asked as Itachi nodded and kept watching. Naruto is many things. He's hyper, blunt, stubborn and not very bright to be honest, but he is a genius of hard work and he does have a special ability for being unpredictable and pulling through from hopeless situations. It's probably his best quality. So he's really like Ash then, Misty muttered in shock as Geodude and Riolu were both starting to wear down. Riolu was tired from avoiding all the attacks while Geodude was using its own moves to bust through the boulders. Ryolu, behind another boulder, Naruto ordered as Ryolu did, and Brock lost his patience. Geodude, break through and grab it, he ordered as the rock Pokemon went after it in another tackle. Naruto, however, smirked. Now, Naruto said as Ryolu jumped away from the boulder and sent his aura to his paw. Geodude, however, tried to stop but collided through the rock that protected the blue dog before he felt the blue Pokemon next to it. From what I could tell, quick attack, aerial ace and tackle as far as he remembered could only go into straight lines if we can attack it while it's moving forward, Naruto thought back before he focused back on the battle. Force Palm, he ordered as the blue dog slammed his paw into the side of the rock Pokemon, sending it through another boulder and having it embedded in the wall. Geodude, Brock called out in shock as the rock Pokemon floated freely from the wall before collapsing back on the ground, fainted. Recalling it, he thought back to the battle, weakening it steadily by having Geodude break through the rocks, similar to how he defeated Ash's Pidgeotto the day before he underestimated the blonde. Still, that was a good strategy, turning the boulders against me, he admitted as he knew Geodude was going to have some time to rest after the battle. Naruto, did it? Misty said, amazed at the strategy. Itachi smirked. Last night, he told me about Ash's battle with Brock. From what it sounded like, he defeated his Pidgeotto in the same way before Ash managed to beat it with Pikachu, he explained as Misty nodded. Yeah, Ash and Pikachu had trouble with it, but Naruto took it down in one hit, she said as Itachi stayed focused. Geodude was the easy part, now came the next Pokemon one that was the real test. Activating his Sharingan, Itachi waited with bated breath of what this Onyx truly was. Naruto said nothing as he looked at Ryolu. Despite being exhausted, Ryolu still had enough power left for a few more Force Palms. Still, from what he knew about Pokemon, they could only use their moves a certain amount of time before they used up their aura, or as he heard one person call it, their PP. Ryolu's max limit with his Force Palm was still only 10 times until they practiced it more, and he already used it once, but now came the true test. But first. Quick question, Naruto asked, raising his hand like a school child as Brock looked at him confused. Are we allowed to switch Pokemon in these matches or no? He asked as Brock and Misty looked at him confused. No, you aren't in the Kanto League, Brock said as Naruto looked like he was just slapped in the face with the trout. But he needed Beedrill to set the stage first, and then Ryolu could. He just lost this super awesome strategy he was preparing, all because he didn't think he couldn't switch. Are there any other questions? Brock asked as he noticed the blonde shinobi, now looking down depressed before getting a shake of the head as a no. Then we'll continue. Onyx, go, he called out as a large snake made of stone appeared and looked down at the Ryolu, who was paling a little. And Naruto, a little help out here? The blue dog called out as Naruto looked on and sighed. Well, hopefully Naruto had a backup plan then. Alright, Ryolu, forget the plan. We're improvising and kicking that thing's ass, Naruto called as Ryolu gawked. That was his backup plan. Improvising? That's his plan? Misty cried in disbelief as Itachi just sighed. Well, he wouldn't expect anything else. Maybe Naruto would learn more about the thing he signed up for before entering it on a whim, like the rules of battle. Zoro just shook his head as the annoying blue dog was about to fight the giant rock serpent. Still, this should be an entertaining match. Onyx, tackle, Brock ordered as the large Pokemon gave a roar and charged at the blue dog, using quick attack to avoid the other Pokemon's attack. Naruto frowned as he tried to think of a plan before he just shrugged it off. Channel your Force Palm, Naruto ordered as Ryolu nodded and sent his aura to his palm again as Onyx roared once more. As Ryolu jumped back, narrowly avoiding the head, Ryolu aimed for one of Onyx's segments. Onyx, strike it with your tail, Brock ordered as the large Pokemon moved away before it slammed its tail into Ryolu. Seeing Ryolu getting slammed down to the ground, Naruto looked worried as Ryolu got up and turned to face the other Pokemon. Oh yeah, this thing was tough. Can you still fight? Naruto called out as Ryolu nodded and went back to Naruto as Brock looked at Ryolu impressed. You really should recall your Pokemon. I don't want to hurt it after all, Brock said as Naruto looked at Ryolu, who nodded and was prepared to keep fighting. Sighing, he smirked. We're both going to fight, and if Ryolu's willing to keep going then so am I, Naruto said as Brock sighed. If that's what it was going to be then. Onyx used tackle, Brock ordered as Ryolu moved away from Naruto and prepared for round 2. Use quick attack to avoid it, Naruto ordered as Ryolu instead took the attack as everyone looked on in shock before Onyx reared its head up and looked to see the unconscious Pokemon in the hole, except he never found it. Instead, Ryolu was on his head, glaring in exhaustion as the endure faded before he began channeling all his leftover aura into his hands and forming 2 last Force Palms before slamming both of them into the beast's forehead, earning a roar of pain before Onyx and Ryolu both fell unconscious. Shit, Ryolu! Naruto called out as he ran towards the fallen Pokemon as Brock recalled Onyx and looked on concerned. It wasn't until Ryolu moaned exhaustedly that Naruto smiled and hugged the blue dog. Good job, you deserve a rest, Naruto said as Ryula smirked and allowed himself to be recalled into his Pokeball. I can't say I expected that, Brock admitted as Naruto nodded. Yet to be honest, I didn't even know Ryula could use Force Palm with both hands, he admitted, but was smiling nonetheless still. Wait. What about Onyx? Naruto asked as Brock nodded his head. That was a draw, a critical hit at that, but you shouldn't push your Pokemon so hard, Brock said as Naruto nodded. Ryula wanted to continue. I guess he had a plan, he said. He improvised with that Endure and Force Palm. Honestly, he probably would have done the same thing. Well, regardless, a loss is a loss, so I guess you earned this, Brock said, handing the boulder badge to the blonde shinobi as Naruto took it and smiled. Thanks, though it was really Ryula who deserves it, Naruto said as Brock nodded. Naruto truly did care about his Pokemon. It was probably best if they headed to the Pokemon Center, as the two trainers headed for the center to heal their partners after the fight. Bang. I'm back, Ash declared as Pikachu nodded, ready to fight. Noticing everyone looking at him, he looked confused. Huh, did I miss something here? He asked as Itachi raised an eyebrow. Misty sighed while facepalming. Brock looked on with a confused look and Naruto smirked. He has impeccable timing, Kurama muttered sarcastically as Naruto just shook his head at the other trainer's appearance. Back in the Elemental Nations, Sasuke Uchiha glared outside the stronghold of the Land of Iron. And you said Danzo is in there? He said as a black and white humanoid figure appeared and nodded his head. That is true, Danzo is inside there. He really made a mess for us, Setsu said as Sasuke sighed and thought back about what he learned about the man. The man that forced his brother to eliminate his clan, the man who became Hokage, the man that killed the closest person he had to a friend. Opening his eyes to reveal his new eternal Manjiki Sharingan, Sasuke prepared to avenge them, his clan, his brother, even that dead last loser. Let's go, he ordered as the group followed him to battle. So the next gym is in Cerulean City? Naruto said as Ash smiled and was determined to get his next badge. He already obtained his first badge, despite the means being more towards, well, out of pity in a sense. You guys don't have to go to the Cerulean City one. How did you even learn about it beforehand? Misty asked as Naruto could tell she was hiding something. Normally he would respect her choice, but well, Itachi also mentioned something about a special ramen stand in the city, so either way he was going. Itachi told me. Besides, I think it would be nice to see the world, remember, the blonde said as their newest member looked at him confused. By the way, Brock asked as Naruto turned to him with Ryula next to his trainer. Why isn't Itachi traveling with us? He asked as Naruto could tell that Ash and Misty were interested as well. Shrugging, the shinobi continued his travels. He said he had something to do, but he'd meet up with us back at Maiden's Peak, the blonde shinobi said as the three kids nodded. So, what's Empty Moon like besides fossils? Naruto asked as Brock smiled. Empty Moon is known for their rock formations and scenery, he said as Naruto nodded. So basically it was just like every other cave in the world. Yeah, but I still say that Misty started before a voice caught their attention. Step right up to this young girl's shop of wonder, find items that would make your Pokemon grow and flourish in the world, and with love you, with the Pikachu on your head. A girl with brown hair called as the four looked at her confused. She was probably around a year or older than Naruto, more around Brock's age. You talking to me? Ash asked as he seemed confused. Well, since he was the only one with a Pikachu and they were the only ones there. That's right, you're a trainer, aren't you? To become the very best, to catch them all is a test, and to train them is your goal, but you need to be determined and focused. But thankfully I can help with these babies, the girl said as she held out several poke balls with different colors, making them look confused. What are these? Ash asked as she smirked. Those are Ultra Balls, better than Poke Balls and have a better catch rate than the normal ones. All the great Pokemon masters use them, she said as she quickly pulled out what looked like a spray bottle with a wide smile. We also have a deal going. Buy 2 Ultra Balls and get a repel for free. After all, Empty Moon is renowned for its annual Zubat migration. I thought it was renowned for fossils and rock formations. Naruto asked, confused and uninterested with that. And what the heck's a Zubat? Everyone looked at him confused. Zubat was one of the only Pokemon found practically everywhere in the world, the exception maybe being Unova. They have Woobat. You aren't that smart, Green muttered before she continued. Zubats are small bats that attack people. They swarm people that make good meals. A shame, really, she said with a sigh. Naruto, however, rolled his eyes. Please, if they were that bad, they would have a sign or something. Besides, it's not like they could really attack them. His thoughts were interrupted by the screaming of a man as a swarm of blue bats attacked him and chased him out of the cave. While that was happening, everyone just watched in stunned silence. Now all we need is the sign, Kurama piped in, cheerfully sarcastic as Naruto frowned. That proved nothing. Soon, Ash came to his senses and looked at Pikachu, who nodded. As the small mouse let out a stream of lightning, the Zubat all flew back into the tunnel before Brock caught one at the last second. "Hey, you alright?" Ash called out as the man looked around confused before he looked at the Pikachu and in turn, its trainer. "Are you the one that saved me?" he asked before he started to cry tears of joy. "Oh, thank you very much. I thought I was going to die, but thanks to you, I'm alive," he thanked before he cheered out in the distance. "I'm alive." "Is he suffering from blood loss?" the girl asked concerned as she looked on. "My name is Seymour, a scientist at the Pewter City Museum," he greeted as Naruto just sighed. "No, he's fine," he said, remembering when Professor Plum from said museum gave him the tour. He was still annoyed at that, but the time a man went into space was interesting even when Kurama called it bullshit at first. "How do you know?" the girl asked as Naruto smirked. Honestly, after being around people like Lee, Guy, Jiraiya, he just came to accept that fact. Same people were energetically weird. He purposely ignored the jab the fox mentioned about him in that sentence. "Trust me, I know from experience. Who are you anyways?" he asked as the girl just smiled. Green Leaf, a trainer of joy and business," she said as Naruto looked at her confused. "First yellow, now green, what was next? Red and blue?" Then again, Kanto's main cities were based off color, but that was only a coincidence, right? Naruto Uzumaki, he introduced as she nodded before he noticed the others start to leave, making Naruto follow with Green behind him, deciding to shut up shop for now. Apparently something was going on. "So, why were those Zubat attacking you?" Ash asked as the scientist sighed. "It's because of the crooks in the caves. They planted all of these lanterns everywhere," Seymour said as Naruto looked at the different lights hanging on the walls. Frowning, the shinobi looked on as Seymour explained with sadness. "What do you mean?" Green asked as she seemed confused, but that would explain why the Zubat were more active and irritated than usual. "It would be great for business, but not for the Pokemon. The Paras in the area have started to plant their own mushrooms, and the Sandshrew are drying out," he explained as the others felt angered at that. Naruto's eyes flashed red for a second before he decided to make some clones and smash the lanterns. "But why would someone do this?" Misty asked as Seymour sighed. "My guess it would be because of the Moonstone," he said as everyone looked confused. "Moonstone, wait. You mean that fairy tale? I know moonstones are found here, but the actual moonstone is real?" Green shouted out in disbelief. Seymour nodded as he thought it was real as well. Naruto looked confused. What was the difference between a moonstone and the moonstone? "Moonstone? What's that?" Ash asked as Seymour smiled. "The moonstone is considered the original source of the moonstone. It was also speculated that Pokemon themselves came from space," he said as everyone looked at him in shock. "Pokemon? From outer space, like aliens or something?" "Technically it is possible, but it's not like Naruto was going to have to wrestle an alien or something here. Still, this is all considered a fairy tale. No one ever found signs of it before." Seymour finished before the cavern shook from an explosion. "What the heck was that?" Ash called out as Brock frowned. "Sounded like it came from down there," he said as he pointed to a passage as the three of them ran to the source, Naruto seeing Seymour and Green following before Naruto made a few clones to take down the lanterns before following. "Come on, don't tell me that's all you got?" A white cat taunted as a yellow mole Pokemon glared with a pink Pokemon standing behind it, looking on in fear. "Just stay down, get out of here," the pink Pokemon called as the yellow one refused to back down. The heat was getting to him, but he wasn't going to back out, not when these thieves were causing all of these problems. "My, I didn't think this little guy could move as well as he could," Jesse said as James smiled. "A little Sandshrew protecting a Clefairy, but we of Team Rocket need that moonstone." "Yeah, so get lost, you little pest," Meowth taunted as Ekans and Coughing both attacked the lone Pokemon. Jumping back, the Sandshrew glared and counter-attacked with a rapid spin, sending Coughing flying. Turning back, he once again avoided an attack from the purple snake that tried to bite down on him before he fell on one knee, exhausted. He was at his limit. This was bad. "Ekans, use bite," Jesse commanded. Coughing, smokescreen, James added before another voice interrupted them. "Pikachu, use Thundershock," Ash called out before Coughing was zapped by some lightning. Ekans, however, launched at the injured Pokemon in its sights before it was slammed away by a blue blur that was Riolu. "What the twerps here?" Jesse called, not knowing why they were here before Naruto, Green and Seymour walked up to the kids. As Naruto glared, he also noticed the Sandshrew ready to fight before he decided to stand by it and Riolu. "You guys again," Ash cried out in shock as Misty growled at the familiar band of thieves. "Don't you get tired of causing trouble?" she yelled as the two smirked, starting to do their motto while Naruto just sighed and threw out a poke ball containing Beedrill. "Yeah, look, we get it already. You aren't that scary, he interrupted as the three rockets looked at him in both shock and anger. Do you realize what kind of trouble you caused for us? Jesse growled. You had us run from a swarm of Beedrill. Who does something like that? James whined as Meowth glared at the blonde. You're a pest, Meowth accused as Green looked at him confused and with a blunt glance. You did what now? Green asked as Naruto smirked. It was their own fault, but if you three want a reintroduction, Beedrill, real ready? He asked as the two Pokemon nodded, ready to go before Sandshrew got up and prepared to fight as well, despite what the Clefairy behind it seemed to think. Stay out of this is my fight, he said as Riola looked at him confused. He was on his last leg and was willing to still keep going. You're an idiot, stay out of our way, I want to get some exercise, Beedrill said before Sandshrew glared but remained quiet. Ash smirked as he and Pikachu got ready while Green looked at the Clefairy and decided to stand by it with Seymour. How pathetic, a voice called out as everyone turned around and noticed two more rockets appear. Honestly, you're getting pushed around by a bunch of brats is really humiliating. Cassidy, Jesse growled as James followed suit. And Botch, he added as the other male rocket growled. It's Butch, he said annoyed before he went back to business. Anyways, why are you kids around here? Didn't your parents teach you not to interfere with adult business? Two of them, great, Naruto muttered before he noticed a large brown rat and blinked. Wait, weren't they? Well, why don't we teach them some manners, Raticate? Take them down, Cassidy said as Butch smiled. Take them out, Drowsy, he said as Naruto and Riola turned to them ready to fight alongside Beedrill. Ash and Pikachu were ready to fight against Jesse and James. I'll help out, Brock said as Ash nodded as Green stood next to Naruto with a poke ball in hand while Clefairy and Sandshrew were behind both her and the blonde shinobi. Riola might handle Raticate, but let me handle Drowsy, she said holding a poke ball of her own as Naruto just nodded. This wasn't an official Pokemon battle, so they didn't need to worry about the rules. Let's get out of here, Misty said before they noticed Clefairy look again at Sandshrew and nod before fleeing. Hey, wait up, she called back before she and Seymour went after it. Oh no you don't, Meowth muttered as he followed them. Go, Diddy, Green said as a pink blob appeared as she smiled. Transform, she called as it took the form of Drowsy as Ash smirked. Butterfree, go, Ash called as the blue butterfly was released to fight. Zubat, help out, Brock called. Beedrill, go for it, Naruto ordered as Riola turned to Sandshrew, who was trying to fight again. Diddy, make them pay, Green said with a smirk. Drowsy, make them sleep, Butch ordered. Raticate, bite, Cassidy ordered. Ekans, show them a real bite, Jesse demanded. Coughing, smokescreen, James called out. And with that, the battle began. What if, end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.